And since Tasia's busy, do you want me to do roll call, Tasia?
That'll be great.
Okay, Bruce.
I'm here.
Katie. Here. Bob.
Here.
Lori. Here. Patty Jo.
Present.
And myself. Okay.
And I'm here too.
And Marie via telephone. All right. Lori, would you read the district mission out loud for us, please?
Together we engage, educate, and empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities.
Thank you, Lori. Do we have any public comment? If so, we would have had filled out that little red card over there. Everybody, nobody? Okay, we're gonna move on then. I think there should be a place on here to approve the agenda, or don't we have to do that?
Not for work session.
Not for work sessions. All right, then Industrial Building Academy presentation. You guys are up.
So we're so excited to be able to share with you the amazing work that our Academy students have been doing so far this year. Just a quick kind of reminder, the Academy was something new that we brought onto the high school this year, so we are definitely doing a lot of kind of learning by doing as we move through each week and kind of figuring out how this all needs to run and kind of roll. So I'm actually going to turn it over to, we have Mr. Eichten and Ms. Sutton here, who are two of our teachers within the Academy. We also have 5 students here that are also going to talk about their experience in the Academy so far. I see they brought some of their goodies that they're going to show as well and just kind of allow you to learn a little bit more about what they're doing and the direction that we're headed. So I will turn it over to Zach and Jen.
Show or sell if anybody wants to buy them there for a second.
They did not bring the cabin or the ice shack. They're working on that,
Yeah.
but not. So they put together a presentation. So the information on the presentation, we're gonna read through it. They kind of helped to, we just facilitated the presentation, and then they have some stuff that they're gonna share as well, but we'll just start. So, so the logistics of the Academy, they're in there every morning, and by there, we are housed in the Fab Lab for the most part, as well as the Woods Room and some of the Metals Room and outside. And they're earning credit in various subject areas, so it works out really nice. Lots of equipment that's being used that you can see listed. A lot of it came from the Fab Lab grants that we've received, as well as equipment that's within the wood shop and the metal shops. We've been utilizing all of that. You can read through this on your own. This is just pulled straight from the course handbook, just kind of what the big picture of the Academy was, why they chose to sign up for it based on what it was in the course handbook, because they elected to be in it based on what the description of it was, you know, just through reading that and through talking to teachers involved. So, so this came from these guys. So about the program, if you want to talk about it, you can.
Yeah, the cool thing about this presentation is we didn't put it together. The kids put this whole thing together to kind of describe what the heck they're doing throughout the day, which is great. Program was for sure designed to be more hands-on and have kind of the core subjects come to them inside the Academy. So they're in there working on all this great stuff, but then English, math, social studies, all come to them in there, and they get all their English, or all their core subjects, except science, right through the Academy. They work on Mondays and Tuesdays, they kind of work on bigger projects. Wednesdays through Fridays, they work on their own businesses, where they're all coming up with their own business plan, and hopefully trying to turn a profit with the stuff that they're creating and selling. So.
And what they did not include is where the information comes from on our end, and what we're really trying to focus on is for like the business credit, what my essential standards are that they're earning, and they're getting that, you know, infused right into their businesses that they're doing. English, they're sending emails to clients, they're talking to clients face to face, so they're earning those credits through the standards that we've identified as essential to earn that credit in that subject area. Math, I think one of the comments was there's a lot of math infused. You don't realize, you know, all of the work that you're doing that's infused in, you know, within all of the projects that they're working on. So, yep. So we've had lots of clients. I would say our #1 client has been Facebook through the school store webpage. People we know and don't know. We've had some, you know, out of the, wherever they came from off the internet, you know, coming to want special purchases. We've had people we know, we've had family. Lots of people reach out for just special requests on different projects, what they're capable of, and, you know, making and designing and showcasing their work, and then taking orders for special requests, so.
We have a guy going on a 3-week camping trip to California who talked to Jen over Facebook. He wanted 2 custom beanbag board games for his camping trip. These guys met with them, designed it, pitched it to him, the whole thing. He couldn't have been happier. It was
And that
great.
has since evolved into, we've got Apollo heating and air conditioning, we've got clients that, I mean, we've got, so it's really cool to see and the kids really we start the contact and then they just take it from there and start the communication, so that's been really, really great to watch, so. I kind of covered this already, just we've identified, what is essential for them to be learning in English, and by we, that's, Mr. Lindenberg's wheelhouse, and then he incorporates that and infuses that into what they're doing every morning, so. Drafting emails, sending thank yous, doing, all sorts of things, requesting maybe products from somewhere, donations from somewhere, they facilitate all of that, so.
Yeah,
just
Corey
support it.
Lindenberg takes care of English, Dennis Potter is in there with social studies, and Joey Leonard is our math teacher that comes into the academy.
And then Mr. Herring.
And then Mr. Herring, correct.
So is it basically performance-based assessment then?
Absolutely. So we have our standards identified. I'm picturing my spreadsheet right now with my standards identified, and as the kids are hitting them through what they're doing, I'm tracking it on a sheet with where they're at with those standards. So it's, I mean, Infinite Campus and grading looks really completely different, and we've as a group really found that this is an awesome experience and something we would love to do. I mean, speaking from a teacher perspective, more of, because seeing what they're getting out of it and identifying where they are on specific standards has been almost a no-brainer. So much easier to see it, so.
When it's real.
It is real, and it's real to these guys too, who have more talent in their hands than I'll ever have in my life. And it's fun to watch them be able to show it, just through school in a different way. It's really fun to watch, and I'm not gonna speak for you, it seems like you're really liking it, so.
And they somehow convinced us to do the first part of the presentation too, so they're convincing.
Yeah, they did a really good job. We have in here a couple student experiences from that. We won't read everything, but a couple students kind of went through and talked about their experience, what they liked, what they're getting out of it. We had, Brody wrote one up earlier this week. I'm not sure if he wants to talk about it or not,
Yep,
but
come on
he
over,
sure
Brody.
can.
So we have Brody, we have Aaron, we have Justin, we have Gunnar, and we have Braden. So there are 15 currently, and this is the crew that could show up tonight, so we're thankful. So go ahead, Brody.
So with learning in a classroom, I didn't really get it or understand it. I would always struggle with getting off topic and counting lights because I was bored. With this, I'm always hands-on. It's a better way for me to express my learning, I feel like. And many kids have a hard time doing this, and I feel like this program would really be something to continue to do within other schools as well. And then Academy teaches us life skills that we can use in the future, and within building our own ice shack, which we are doing for Miss Sutton, which can save us a lot of money, and we struggle with finding savings. So this is a way to have savings. We can build our own furniture, electrical, basics of building, and this is how we can save us money. And who wouldn't mind saving money? I know I am. Not only can we do this, but we can also do side jobs for other people and make more money. Well, from Miss Donnelly's perspective and mine this year, I had a lot of fun, and I'm having fun. And in my freshman and sophomore year, I was in a lot of trouble all the time, and wouldn't stay out of the office. Got a lot of tickets, which is not something I'm too proud of. But this year, I've been out of trouble, helping other people, and it's really something I'm proud of.
And you should be proud of it. You're doing fantastic.
There we go. Gunnar, you want to show us some of what you've done?
We got a couple pictures of the guys that are here of just samples of some of the stuff they've done, and some of the stuff they've learned. So
So a couple things that I've made are some signs like welcome and boys will be boys. But another thing that I've really learned that I'm started getting better and better at, we're making cutting boards or breadboards. My first time making one, I didn't do any of it right, but then the second time I did it, it turned out a lot better than how the first one should have. But putting so much work into one board, it made me thinking that like this could be something I can do more in the future than what I can do now. Because I know that when I'm in school, it's difficult for me to learn some things. I'm a pretty slow learner. But when I'm in this class, it just felt like I've been in it for a long time.
Thanks, Gunnar. Cameron's not here. A couple of Cameron's things. James was gonna be here tonight, couldn't make it. Jesse, same thing. A lot of these guys have jobs, so it was hard to get a lot here. Braden, you're up.
Well, that
Give
is
signs.
well. There's a couple signs here. Yeah, sure. If you want. And we made this one out of a bunch of different pallets that were cut up and scrapped. And then that right there is a nice shack that we're building for her husband for Christmas. He doesn't know
Hopefully he's
about.
not watching this right now.
Yeah.
That's a surprise.
Should have thought, but what do you know?
Merry Christmas.
And yeah,
Included in this is testing out the ice shack.
Yep.
Next
no,
one, I think.
yep.
Well, we
Did
have
this
skid,
today.
there's skids on the bottom of the ice shack, so you gotta see if it skids or not, so,
This was testing it out today.
and it did just fine.
So we have a little bit of fun too. We try to a little bit. Let's keep watching.
There we go. Ryan couldn't make it, Bailey couldn't make it, Riley couldn't make it, Mr. Risto.
All right, so far this class I've liked it, and not only does it give you I need to think here for a second.
It's okay.
I'm just nervous. But so far I've liked this class. Not only does it give you stuff that you learn in school, but it gives you stuff that you can use later on down the road. Like we're framing a cabin right now, and framing you can do it with garages, houses, sheds, and pretty much anything. We do that Mondays and Tuesdays, and then the rest of the days we either work on math or other subjects, and then I also have a couple of projects that I do on my own, like these. But
You're underestimating
Yeah, can you show
yourself.
them your table, please? I mean, that side table,
That is beautiful.
it should be a My Happy Place item or something like that. And this is something Aaron came up with kind of in his head and just created with no blueprint, no sketches, no
Tip it so
nothing.
we can see the top.
Really nice
That's
work.
Wonderful.
And up next for him, I think, is a bed. He's been
Yep.
yeah, the next project.
kind of planning that out, so.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah.
Brody, you wanna share a couple things, or are you all
Brody's
talked
been
out?
busy.
You're good. Justin? You got one of your
Justin's
signs
I think we
down
said one
here.
of your
Yeah,
signs.
that one's,
One of
that
them.
sign's right here. And then this is a snack and drink holder for beanbag games. And this is a key holder. It opens up and you can put a picture on the front and there's hooks on the inside.
Thanks, Justin.
Just all created out of their own imaginations, which has been fun to watch.
We've got a million pictures as you move through the
Yeah.
slideshow. We don't need to
We don't need to go through
necessarily
all
go
of them.
through all of them, but just some of the, kind of click through them quickly. That's all the cabin work. They poured concrete.
So what's gonna happen with the cabin?
So the
So we
cabin-
have a customer for it.
Yep.
Mr. Herring has a customer that they pre-arranged to have it, and it's gonna go to the
Hideaway.
Pre-sold. Which has been great, because then you have somebody to work with, questions and, so.
Yeah, we have a zillion pictures in here, which is, it's fun to look through because these guys, and if I can use Gunnar as an example, Gunnar, when we first got into this, he goes, I'm not really good with, I've never used wood, I've never worked with that, I'm a metals guy. And then, Gunnar, you learned how to build those cutting boards, and a light bulb went off. And now he's all in with everything that has to do with building with wood, and that's come in 2 months. So it's fun to watch the progression as they work through this, as they see what they can do, it's fantastic, so.
Any questions for them?
I have a ton of.
Yeah.
When did you start building the cabin at the beginning of the school year?
It was a little way through we
Yeah.
started.
I think they had 2 projects before that.
Yep, so it was
So
October.
have you finished it yet? How long do you think it's gonna take you?
We maybe a month
A
or
month
2.
more?
Yeah, let's say a month more.
Are you gonna build
Insulated.
another
We're
one?
just about done with the siding.
And if it was summer, we would get a lot more done. But with this winter and cold weather, not so much.
Are you going to build another one? You wanted to, but what? Why is that?
Not enough time in
But I
it.
think there's a couple other projects in front of that too that they're gonna come back to.
Or just clients and who's reached out for
I had
requests,
heard that this
so.
client had asked for like 15 of them. or
Yeah, I
something
think
like
it's
that.
something that they could continue,
Yeah.
so, yeah. It's clients as well as we have to make sure we're hitting our standard, you know, the standards that we need them to hit. So if they have to do that through communicating with somebody else, so it's kind of that balance of, you know, of both of those, but, yeah, we'll see. Maybe
Would
they'll-
you guys
maybe they'll
recommend
do
this
15.
class to other kids?
Yes.
That was quick, I like that. Yeah,
Me too.
Good.
Good answer.
good.
Is there ever an idea to like reach out to the other successful alumnus that have made their own like Woodstock, and then I think Justin Jacobs does furniture and Keith King does hand custom guitars and mandolins and stuff, like getting them guys to
Yep,
come
so
in?
we have started a few of those conversations. Everyone is so busy.
Right.
I mean, especially in that field. We have definitely reached out to a few that are in the industry just to help with just teaching them some skills. And things like electrician, we don't have some of those, you know, those other trades that they're really interested in, and, you know, reaching out for HVAC, electrician. We've got a list of a few that we wanna definitely hit on with them because they're interested in those types of things. So whatever they're interested in, we're trying to hit those career, you know, those pathways that they're showing an interest in. So.
Do you see the program growing? I mean, you said you had 15 this year?
We'll see. I mean, absolutely. I mean, in my head, you know, a foods academy, a music academy, an arts academy, it's like a no-brainer, you know, way to do school in my head. Logistically, you know, I don't know how that would look, but it makes so much sense from a teacher perspective that I would love to see it grow.
It's so motivational.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, Brody said it best when, you know, the truancies and the behavioral stuff has been, I'm not gonna pretend it's totally gone away, but it's been pretty good.
Dramatic decrease.
It's been very good. I'm underestimating that, so.
So where do you hope this takes you in a career path? Is there a certain field that you individually want to share about getting into?
Well, with this cabin that we're working on, we learn a lot, like hooking up electricity, like the outlets and everything, lights, and then we also learn framing and siding, along with insulation, and just other stuff that we can use down the road, like if you're remodeling or something like that.
I don't know.
Perfect.
I'm just kind of going with the flow, I guess.
Sure.
We talk
See
a
where
lot
it
about
takes me.
pathways. You
Yeah.
guys all have some ACT
I mean, I have
stuff that we
ideas,
learn.
but
Yeah.
I don't really know where I'm at right now.
I would recommend this class if you're not looking to go to college, but just looking to start working the day that you get out of high school and just trying to get some money.
Perfect. Trying to gain the skills, so,
So you come out of high school with some skills.
Right.
absolutely. They already have skills, they're underselling themselves, they have skills already, but I think they're kind of honing those right now too, so. Learning new trades.
Well, thank you guys very much for coming in.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. All right, I can't carry all this. I'll take the small.
All right, so construction update is next. Wasn't that cool for you construction guys to be able to look at that?
Some new recruits?
There's some future employees for you guys, yeah.
I'm gonna say they're taking notes here.
None of those programs happen unless you've got some teachers that are very creative and leading the way on these things.
And think outside the box.
That's- So, Vaughn, are you gonna lead us through this?
Yeah, and I think I'll probably stand.
We just had an hour and a half construction meeting before this.
Well, we don't want an hour and a half.
No,
Well,
we're only gonna get the hour version.
in the spirit of time, I will do the fast version of this. If I can make it go.
Should be arrows, just use the down arrow.
Enter.
here's
Scroll. Sorry. So we're at, the phase we're at right now is design development. We're just completed design development. We're going into construction documents. So at this point, the majority of our design decisions have been made. We're working hand in hand with Market and Johnson on cost estimating, pricing, getting the documents ready for bid, et cetera. Okay, all right, perfect. So, I'll quickly go through this. Referenda diagram, just for reference, we have those in here. This PowerPoint will be available online, so if the community wants to take a look at it. You also have books in front of you with all this information, so rather than go through it in detail, I'll jump up to our criteria. Remember, at the end of schematic design, we talked about how your staff and team helped us set both criteria and principles for the buildings that we really designed around. We have that included with the presentation as well for information. I'm taking a cue from the last presentation where they skipped over all the words to get into the concept of this. It's easier to see what lights off maybe. So this is the current design layout for the site. So we'll tackle the campus site all at one time. Probably the biggest things to note, I'll work my way around from the elementary back to the front. We're revising the front of the elementary school, changing the parking layout and adding a significant amount of queue space to the drive lane. So now, as parents come in, they will circulate all the way around that area so they have extended space to queue up, which should pull people off of Spartan Drive. We're extending the bus loop towards the back of the building so that we can get our buses queued up and separated. At the end of the elementary day, buses leave, go to the high school on a similar route to the way they currently go. However, what's new at the middle school and high school is a combined bus loop for both buildings together. And coming in from the opposite side, as parents come in, if I've got a middle schooler to pick up, I'm gonna come in, go one way back through to the new entry point, pick up my middle schooler. If I have a high schooler to pick up, I'm gonna do the same type of thing where I pull around drive, pick up the high schooler. If I'm gonna pick up one from each building, I'll probably do the high school first, then the middle school, exit out. We're working with the city on what this intersection wants to look like now. Buses have priority leaving the site at the end of the day. Students leaving at the end of the day, exit out through the southeast part of the site as well. We're gonna have some stormwater management underneath the parking lot with some new ponding areas on site here. We're working with George and company on how to minimize our plowing obstacles in the sites as we go through. But all of this is intended to streamline the site in terms of traffic exiting. We're also leaving space for future expansion of the high school out to the east, as well as we know that potential future auditorium may want to go on the southwest portion of that.
So what would the bus route be? I'm sorry.
Buses, first elementary school, all the buses leave the elementary school at the end of the day, go to the high school, which this is the current route that they take to get around, but then they have one bus loop between the high school and the middle school right now. So middle schoolers and high schoolers come out to the same buses.
And then they go to the front of the.
And then they, as they exit, they go out that way.
out there.
Yep.
Okay. How about in the morning?
In the morning, they will drop off at, probably coming in, drop at the middle school, loop to the high school, drop and out, or go to the elementary school and drop. So mornings are never really an issue for us because they tend to stagger as they go through. And parent drop off, bus drop off, they're not all at once, so they tend to stagger a little bit as they come in, which helps. So that gives the buses the option of not dropping at one point, but dropping at both as they go. We also know that we're going to be adding a canopy and an entry point to the middle school here, but we're also going to preserve the option of maintaining the current entrance on this side of the building as well. So we've got some options for the future, but we want to make sure that that appears as a student entrance, which goes directly into the common space, which if we move forward in the slide, would be some blow-ups of each of those areas. We are moving the play area from the north side of the middle school to the south side of the middle school. So what's currently the main entry coming in is now the exit out to the play area. What's currently out to the play area will become the new front door for the middle school. So this is our diagram of the middle school, color coded to make it a little bit easier to understand. Walking in from the front door, again coming in, have a new secure entry into the office space. Our main office area wraps around this area a little bit where we have our staff break room off of that common space, reception area, which is down at the lower level coming in. It's a little bit of an elevation change. Conference space, nurse area. Our wrestling room, which is currently on the upper level, and that utility space is moving to the main level with a back entry point into that space. Science lab renovation, new science lab off of that space. 7th and 8th grade house, 5th and 6th grade house. These have glass areas looking into those extended learning environments. Our media center has glass looking out into the common space. And our student services is moving to what's currently storage area as part of that gymnasium. So our student services gets consolidated. This portion of the building is actually more maintenance-based. This will be more of the renovation work. This is things like flooring, paint, etc. So it won't look as different in terms of the layout, but it does get upgraded. We've gone through user groups with each of the staff members for each of the spaces being renovated so that they've laid out the detail for the spaces with us so they'll know exactly what's happening when they move in, and we have a complete set of documents just looking at each of those that we've coordinated with our mechanical and electrical. And now let's look at some actual pictures, because pictures sometimes are easier to understand than floor plan. So this is the new entry point for the middle school coming in. We've got a lot of windows from the reception area, looking at who's coming in and out of that building. That's our new entry point with the secure vestibule that brings you directly into the office space as you enter from outside the building. These are the materials that you'll see as we go through. So both the middle school and the high school, the indication was try and use school colors as much as possible. So rather than have a different accent, we're working in that red, a little bit darker version of it, and trying to make that minimal in paint so that our materials, if you choose to go with different color schemes in the future, the materials are more neutral. Let furniture and paint be your accents as opposed to building that in. This is a view inside the office, and I've stepped in through that secure vestibule and greeted a reception desk. You can see the glass that would look out over that drive so you can see who's coming up to the building. This is now a view of the 7th and 8th grade flex learning space. So we've got our lockers in that area, some different flexible furniture, glass from the classroom environments, being able to look into those learning spaces. So much like what the students presented today, where they're talking about hands-on or independent learning projects, this is what can happen in those types of spaces here at the middle school. Middle school is more an introduction to it. High school is where they actually do a lot more of that independent work, and we'll see that momentarily. This is a view of the front area, the open part of the media center, as we'll call it. So more of your bringing classes in, students working one-on-one or in small groups, as opposed to the book area for the media center. View of the 5th and 6th grade house. So this is actually looking towards the back side of the media center here. There's some conference room space built into that as well. And again, the glass from the classrooms looking into that area. So staff, teachers can see what's going on in that area. You're more likely to have students work in that environment if you can see what's going on. One of the renovated science labs in the building, a lot of storage built in. And construction schedule. So this is, we are at this point, right about here, in December, we've got about a little over a month left to finish the construction documents. We just met with the Project Oversight Committee before this meeting. They'll be doing document review. We're still working with George on going through some finalization of some of the maintenance items with him, but this next month and a half is really about construction documents for us before we go into bidding, and we'll get to Markin and Johnson momentarily as we talk about that. And Justin can maybe pull up the high school. So we've included with the high school same types of things, the criteria, the site plan. Since it's a campus plan, it looks identical. But I'll skip forward and I'll go through the high school plans and then talk a little bit about estimates and schedule and answer questions. Maybe we'll do that. And I think from the high school perspective, the students that were here earlier are a great example of what we're actually looking at for all the different subjects in terms of the high school, and creating some environments where it's not simply lecture-based learning. It's not just what's happening in the classroom, but there's areas with each of the different disciplines for students to actually work in either hands-on types of projects or small group discussion to go further into a subject matter as we go forward. And that's something that the high school team's been fantastic about working with us on. Yeah. Or the floor plan. That'd be good. Okay, so again, walking in the front door of the high school is probably the best place to start. Office stays in the same location, but gets some significant renovation to get some much needed room, secure vestibule coming into that area as well. The first thing that happens is that main entry area is opened up into what we've dubbed the digital commons, or space between former media center space and more of the active cafeteria style space. We know long-term that multi-purpose room, if you were to add an auditorium, would actually evolve into more of a student commons, and so we're anticipating that as part of future renovations with the building, if you will. Works with what you have now, but it'll also work well in the future as you come through the building. The red represents the areas where we can lock the building down or have those secure type environments, so that on a weekend, if you want to open up one side of the building or a different part of the building, you've got some options for that. So we move back through that area into the learning environment. We have more of our English and world language and social studies classes on one side of the building, our science and our hands-on learning labs to the other side of the building. Secure media center are books and the materials that we want to be able to keep in more of a locked up environment, if you will, or be able to close the doors around that and say on a weekend, maybe we want to have those not be accessible to the public, but open up that extended learning environment here. So this is the spaces in the media center that would be more of those chairs, soft seating type environments. So now these classrooms all have a way of being able to open up to that and be more accessible to that space. We've got our special education is distributed in a few different areas in the building, along with ASL, some flex learning environment. Going back into the science area, we have our 2 science labs, science classroom, and some science flex area centered in that area, access to the greenhouse. Our kitchen lab, sometimes thought of as FACS, moving down towards clean design lab, semi-clean, dirty, heavy. So if you think about this is designing it, this is prototyping it, this is building it as you go through. The students that were here tonight would be using all of these spaces as part of the course of their day. Not just going to a woods lab or a metal lab, but really figuring out how do I explore building those ideas as they go from the prototype stage all the way through final construction. This is an addition to the building, that heavy lab. Music spaces are existing, and the whole north side of the building is actually existing as well. Again, images, probably the easiest way to do that. User group page. So, in addition to the building, the intent with this picture is to say, you're probably not going to notice that's an addition on the building. It's not intended to stand out. That lab space is really more supposed to blend in on the back side of the building. Same style of materials for the high school, just a little bit more sophisticated in terms of the palette, but again, using neutrals as our concept. So this is the high school office stepping in right inside the main reception area. A lot more room for the public entering that than currently exists in that smaller area. This is a view of that digital commons. So if I was to look to the side, it's facing the cafeteria, multi-purpose space. Looking down this space faces more of the classrooms. But that's that open learning environment for students right inside the building, before after school type environment. This is a view of the extended learning area in front of the media center. So if you look towards the back, that's more that secure materials area. Got small conference room spaces, flexible learning. You can see this is a circulation corridor along the side, so give you an idea of how open that will feel inside the high school as opposed to having lots of little corridors running around everywhere. It's another view of that learning space, just taken from a different perspective. This is inside the science flex area, looking towards the back. So our lab spaces on either side of that, flexible learning environment in the front. It's a view of one of the kitchen lab renovation area, some pull down power from above, movable furniture within that space. This is a view looking through those design labs from the front all the way down towards the back spaces. Garage doors that open up between the areas so that you can have it be larger lab spaces where students are moving. You can close those doors, have it be a little bit more isolated. And again, similar construction schedule. High school is actually scheduled for us to go out about a week before the middle school documents, and then our final elementary set goes out after the middle school documents as well. So the idea is that we're gonna be taking bids in end of January, beginning of February to bring forward to you in March from a bidding perspective. That's probably a good transition for estimates. And then I'll go into questions. Estimates?
Stole our thunder, Vaughn.
Good try.
No,
The high school kids got me excited about the space, so when they're talking about what they, you know, the types of things they wanna do, it's not just those hands-on things. You can see science students doing that. You can see world language students being out in those extended learning environments and doing those projects. You can see the integration of art and facts with that industrial tech learning, and a little bit more cohesive way of looking at it as opposed to compartmentalizing every subject. And I think that's a lot of what we talked about with Shannon and that group as we went through the design spaces and what we saw in those tours.
all right. So as Vaughn said, just as an introduction, I want to get to construction documents. So as we're on the very tail end of construction documents right now, we're gonna bid out the high school, middle school separately, the elementary and the site work we bid at the same time because frankly, the packages are smaller and it's just gonna be advantageous for us to do that. But the high school and middle school, the reason we're doing them separately is really to maximize the bidders out there. By doing the high school and bidding that in early February, it'll give us about a week to review the bids, make some adjustments on who's gonna be the low bidder and notify those people as who the low bidder is. So that by the time the next week comes in on the 11th, when the middle school bids, those people that were maybe second or third have the opportunity to maybe sharpen their pencil a little bit and put more of a competitive bid out there. It should really be an advantageous thing for us to do. We'll get a lot more bidders this way. As I said early on, we'll get bidders from across both sides of the river, which would be great for us. There are a lot of dates in here. This is a very aggressive approach. We're pushing Wool pretty hard to get us documents in time, and we're not giving a whole lot of time for the bidders to get everything put together, but all this is necessary to meet the date at the very bottom there on the March 2nd date, and that gets us to another board meeting, at which point we'll provide you all the bids, our recommendations who the low bidders will be, and with any luck, we'll be right on the number we need to be at, and we'll get the approval and proceed forward. But at that point, that'll kickstart the contract documentation in terms of our contracts, and then getting the thing rolling late spring.
Say from a bidding strategy, one of the ideas also with staggering the bids is that that gives contractors time between the bids to evaluate, did they get the project for the first one? Do they want to keep some of their employees busy? How do they bid the second and third projects? If they didn't get the project, do they need to be more aggressive on bidding the second or third one? So it's a way for us not only looking at how do we combine bids or make it more advantageous for bidders to be economical at staying on site, but also remain competitive as they go through those projects as well.
Right, and it also allows us not to have any over allocations either, if we don't want anybody to wind up with more work than they can handle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I get the fun job of dealing with all the numbers, and so what we did is we took the design development set of documents that Wold produced, and we actually quantified all the parts and pieces with it. We used the designers from the mechanical side of things to help us put numbers to it. And so we and took our best guess at filling in the gaps where they're missing right now to come up with a project budget and currently right now, the $28.6 million referendum, right now the number that we're coming up with is about 1.1 million over that dollar value is what we're anticipating the cost is. Now, I do have to put that, it does not mean that we're necessarily over budget, because right now within our budget numbers, we are carrying a hefty amount of contingencies because we know that design isn't complete, things happen during construction. So within that, call it $1.1 million overage, we're carrying about $2.5 million worth of contingencies that we anticipate could or could not be used, and some of those will be ferreted out up until the bid process. Some of those will drop off if everything goes the way they need to. What that really is telling us right now is that we're really trying to maximize the design of these buildings and to give you as much as possible with the dollars for the referendum. And that we know that we've hit that point, and so we gotta look at trying not to add any more scope, but really refining what we have there.
It's an ongoing process. We started this about 3 weeks ago when we got the design development drawings, and it's been an ongoing process. We had a meeting this morning, a conference call, again, refining numbers, just making sure we understand what's included and what's not included. Because again, this is our last shot at making sure that the budget is in line with the design and vice versa when it goes up to bid. We don't want any surprises on bid day, and this is a great way to minimize that. Yes?
Okay, so I need some clarification, I'm sorry. So
Yes, please.
the 28.6 figure included contingencies of about 2.5 million. Is that what
Our-
you said?
Our 29.7 million, our number. So to back up, the first column would be what was that referendum and kind of the projected breakdown of where those dollars are. The next column where it says DD 12 to 19, that's the
number.
dollars where we are projecting it right at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
And this budget is inclusive of everything that we need, construction-wise, as well as district, in terms of any legal fees, any design fees, anything on the site in terms of moving costs, whatever that may be for the school district, that's included in this budget. There's no other costs I'm aware of that are outside of that number.
Except for the intersection.
The intersection would be different, yes.
Are we responsible for the intersection?
It's like coins flipping in the air.
Oh. When I was out knocking on doors, I was telling people that one of the things that we needed the referendum for was to add on to those classrooms, where we now have tech ed and art and face and so those rooms are on the small side for what they're being used for. In this design, is that space going to be bigger?
It is. The rooms on the end there, not only do we have an addition for that, but as we've gone through and renovated that entire bar of spaces down there, it's adjusted the size of the rooms and made them not only larger, but also more functional in terms of the layout as well. So it's a complete renovation of that entire part of the building, the face labs, the tech labs, as well as an expansion.
So they're going to end up with more room than they have now. And what about science? I thought I heard you only say 2 labs, and I think, don't we have 3 or 4 labs at the high school now?
Well, we are reconfining how we are using those spaces. So yes, in the traditional classroom, each of them is set up to be able to be used as a lab. Different types of labs in each classroom. They are not used, the labs are not used on a daily basis within those classrooms by any means. So
So we're reducing the number of science labs we have?
It reconfigures it so now you can have science labs and science classrooms separate from each other so that they get greater utilization as opposed to part of the room sitting empty when you have science classroom or science lab for that side of the space. And the flexible learning area is also part of the curriculum in terms of how students engage with that area. So it's not an apples to apples comparison, I think is probably the best way to answer it, because the space will be used differently.
So do you have a plan already, or are you still working on how that lab space is going to be scheduled?
I have a plan as to how it will be scheduled, yes, because as a part of the master schedule, that will have to be taken into account. There's also much bigger conversations happening regarding the vision of how science is going to be executed in the building, which plays into some of these plans in terms of how we're using spaces, how we're collaborating as a team. It's bigger than probably what I could just explain in the next 2 minutes, but.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And there's our greenhouse?
We
Yep.
already have a greenhouse, yeah.
Actually, now they'll be able to access the greenhouse without walking through a classroom, which is how they have to access it now, which is an issue.
Any other questions? Anything more, you guys?
No?
Thank you.
I think the only thing I'd add to the, when they say, don't worry about the $1 million, we've already got a list of items that we're looking at. We have game plans in place, and this is not uncommon at this point, so don't panic.
Time to panic is when we come $3 million over at bid date, then we can have a little panic, but right now, I'm very comfortable with what we've got right now, cause this,
Knock on wood.
you know, this really right now shows worst case scenario, but I mean, we're in good shape.
Yeah, I
We're
would
hitting
say,
the market early,
yeah,
the bid market, and that's why it is as aggressive as it is. We're gonna be in the front line of getting bids for next year.
contractors
what we
have been
need.
asking us already, what do you have coming up? What does it look like? Because there's a need for work right now with the contractors. 12 months from now, it's not gonna be the same thing. We're gonna run a referendum that passed this fall. It's gonna be a very different market, so you're timing this perfectly in terms of the construction market.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, compensation plan, exemption discussion. And I think we all have something about that. Mark, you wanna lead that?
Well, just, you know, you've got a lot of documentation on it, you know, we approached about an exemption to the placements by McGrath. And, you know, again, looking at it several different ways, it's, you know, there wasn't any mistake in the data or the placement or what have you. You're looking at an exemption or an exception to the placement.
I had sent an email earlier about, the 10, you said there were 10 staff members this affected?
Yeah, let me get,
Jody?
let me get Jody and Dave in here, because again, a lot of the detail work on it, they've worked on. Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I was just letting them get.
Yeah, is Dave coming in?
Yeah.
Okay. Just grab a, where, Rick? Okay,
I was asking about the 10 people that are supposed to be affected in this situation who made lane changes. And I was wondering if all 10 of those people were making, Mark's email on this said that 10 people made a lane change during the 2018-19 school year.
They turned in all their stuff, so was effective for the 19-20 school year, this year. So we have 10 people that have been moved a lane from where they were in 18-19 to where they are in 19-20.
So of those 10, none of them happened in January last year?
No, there were 2 that happened in January last year. One of the people that moved in January last year also is making a lane change in 19-20 this year, but last year they went from BA12, I'm doing this off the top of my head, but BA12 to BA24 last year, and now for 19-20, BA24 to MA0. So, not the same lane change.
Right.
Same person, 2 different moves.
So all 10 of these are people who finished the documentation of their credits and their lane change during the summer to be implemented September 1st this year?
Correct. And we have no one moving mid-year this year.
Okay.
But if they were, if somebody was moving in January, whenever they got their credits, after the implementation of the grid, and they were a current employee, where would they go?
It depends on what.
Let's say they got their masters. This is part of the problem I'm struggling with. So somebody got, I feel like it's a timing issue, that it just happened that we implemented this
From-
year.
No, you're
Yeah.
right, it is, it's,
Yeah.
it's total timing.
But they're going to be behind. I mean, we're gonna be making the situation that we've been trying to rectify with the gaps. You know, so somebody who's already been here who doesn't get their masters until, let's say, the end of this year, they will go over into that master's lane with their salary adjusted. The people who didn't happen to have this really poor timing of when we implemented the grid.
I have a document that illustrates what Katie's talking about. Jody printed it for me if you wanna pass one down. Marie, I can email it to you.
Would you please? That'd be great. I do wonder, though, if we really want to start to micro adjust what we have paid McGrath's a significant amount of dollars to address for us. Do we really want to start to take apart the work that she did for us, that they did as an organization for us, that our own business services put a lot of time into? Do we really want to take that apart?
I don't consider this taking it apart, and I appreciate all the work that everybody's done. I spoke with Victoria today, and she said that is definitely a, something the school district can do. And as long, and some school districts do operate this way, or have implemented the plan this way. And as long as we're consistent with what we do, she says it's perfectly legitimate.
When we went through this, there was an admin that would have went back up to 0 or 1 or something like that, but we pushed them to higher. I don't remember who it was, but pushed it to higher based on their years of service, even though if we would have followed the grid, that person would have went up to 1 or 2. So why did we make that exception for that person?
You know,
Which was
This is
thousands.
the first I heard, I don't know what person you're talking about.
No, we did that.
But that's what I remember, because I questioned it then also.
Yeah.
And I know we did it for someone, because I voted. So. I
But
guess.
this document that I passed out illustrates it very clearly, the difference in just 6 months. So teacher A, if they earned their master's degree this past June, and their actual wage was as listed, they would be placed in their master's lane closest to what they were making last year. And then next year, they would
Even though
go
they got their
down
masters.
one step.
Yeah.
But a person who started at the same wage, 54,516, and didn't get their master's degree until January, they were placed at the step closest to where they were last year. They get their master's degree in January, they slide right over, and then next year, they go down a step. So, you know, you can see on the illustration with the different colored circles, the significant difference it makes to a huge investment that our staff has made to improve their skills.
And it's all because of when we implemented the grid. I mean, it just happens to be when they got that. If they would have waited another 6 months or a year, that's the part that's getting me. And then so somebody else who earns theirs next year will make that switch. And I just, then we've got the gap thing even worse. You know, I don't think it, you know, I totally agree with being consistent, but sometimes you have to take a look at these things. You know,
Correct. The piece to remember is it's not gonna just affect sliding, it's going to require undoing the additional work that was put in place after So it'll affect
You
the
mean
market.
fixing the gap?
It'll affect their possible market rate adjustment.
Yeah.
Because they may now be higher than that step, so they won't have that bump. Cause market rate, if they were placed, remember, below 5, then you brought them to market above and beyond where Victoria placed them. So if now putting them in their old lane and sliding them over might take away that market adjustment, which will then affect the gap grid. I'm just saying it's going to
And I
require redoing a calculation.
No, I hear you.
So-
I'm more concerned about those who went from a BA to an MA, because that is huge. And, you know, it's huge on our salary schedule for a reason as well.
It's a huge asset for our students too.
What's that?
To have a master's in education is a huge asset to our students, so
Yeah.
to put them, I just feel like the timing is horrible on it, and it almost seems punitive for someone that had that bad timing.
And I understand it means recalculating, and I'm sorry, and I do appreciate all the work that all of us have done on this. But after you recalculate, it's not like, you know, it's a total dollar amount, and you plus or minus, and it's not like a percentage is coming from this category and a percentage is coming from another category. It's just a total, right?
Yes and no. It'll affect the future if they have the gap calculation that you
It'll
guys figured.
change there.
It will change that
Yeah.
and what that may pay out until that is resolved. If there's going to be more payments on that, which we have not addressed yet. So I'm just saying, if you decide to do something, it's more than just, no, they're going to be in this lane on this step. It means backing up and recalculating it. That was all I was saying. I'm not saying
And it's
Ignore-
recalculating for 10 people.
for 10.
Is there any chance, none of these 10 people are gonna go down?
No one would go backwards. Some may not see any difference. Some will see some difference. So,
But they've already received what they think they're getting, so we would send them a oops.
we would send them the board made a decision.
Right.
Not,
Not
it
a-
wasn't a mistake.
Right.
None of this has been a mistake.
No, I
It's
understand.
been a,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it wasn't a mistake.
Okay, so let me, I just have to get this straight in my mind. So, say there's a teacher C who has already been given their sheet. This is where they're on the grid, this is their raise for next year. Now we recalculate, that teacher now is gonna be placed somewhere else with a whole different number. And could that number be lower?
No.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
I know, Lori, that you said you talked with Victoria. I would really like to see Victoria's opinion in writing on this.
I can ask her for an email to,
Well, I would rather it did not come from you. I would prefer that it came through Jody and Dave, who should be the ones working with Victoria.
have you talked with Victoria since July?
I have not, that's been the whole data entry, the what have you, has all been Dave's connection with
Have
Victoria.
you or Dave talked with
I don't think you've
Victoria?
been,
There were a couple people that we had emailed and said, oh, when you place this one, you put them in this, I'm gonna say BA 12 and they should have been BA 24. Can you replace this? Can you look at this one doesn't make sense to me. And she's emailed back and forth, so through Dave, you know, I
Yeah.
said.
it was
like,
cleaning the data.
Yeah,
some of the-
cleaning the data up, but
And we're
she
going
did
to
all the
have that.
placements. Yep, she did all the placements, so that could be an email to her asking for opinion on that, if that's what the full board feels is necessary.
I would also like to know what is gonna be the total cost, not just teacher A or teacher B.
I think that
That's
was in
gonna
Mark's
re-
email.
Was that the 12? Was that was the
That
12?
was me doing it last week fairly I'm gonna say quickly.
A good estimate.
A good estimate of, it'll change this market rate and this 25% and put them on this step, so.
And I would also like to say that it would never have been Victoria recommendation that we do the gap thing as we did, as this board
Yeah.
didn't ask for
She didn't like
her opinion. Of course not, because it does away with her grid totally. So this is not, I mean, this is for us a board decision on, does this seem reasonable? You know, that somebody would lose out on, and I don't think it is. I mean, I think when you just look at it that way, our intention was not to,
Do more harm.
right, and we're trying to resolve.
So this 12.5 is the total it would be, not just,
If
this is for the
you-
10 people,
For the 10
For the
people,
rough
including our
estimate.
teacher A here.
yes.
This is the total max it would cost us.
Well,
I'm going to say
Approximately.
approximately. I mean, I did the 10 people, the calculation, it could be 500 one way, 1,000 another, but it's not going to be double that or anything.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, that was a fairly accurate, quick. I would want to double check everything and make each person their own sheet that says, this is how it would apply to you, and that's what I did with each one, and then added up the differences to give us a ballpark
I think we
figure.
should have that information. And
There's-
one of you guys talk to Victoria and
there's, just saying,
before we do any.
there's other people with exceptions that wanna be made. So this is not gonna be the end of it.
Well, I don't wanna plug one hole and have another one shooting out and running out of fingers to plug holes. So I just wanna be cautious
But I don't,
moving forward with, how, so a lot of this, we fix this, is there going to be
My gut's
a
telling me yes.
substantial amount of people
My-
coming, and then
My gut's telling me yes.
eventually we're gonna have to say no. And that's just moving forward here, I just wanna be cautious on, I don't wanna say no to anybody, that's not what I wanna do. But I just wanna be
Yeah.
cautious.
Again, just, when we look back, we review the process. If the process was, we followed it, and everyone was placed according to the same set of rules. Again, now if you wanna make exceptions to the rules, that's fine, just gotta say to do that, but I just know there's gonna be some other people coming up with exceptions that are gonna wanna, and if you wanna hear them, because I'm saying no right now.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
did make exceptions, so that's the thing, is we did make exceptions for certain, and said that we weren't making exceptions for others, even though we did for certain ones, so I guess I expected this when we made the exceptions for the ones that we did.
Well, I think it maybe should be for action at the board meeting, not at a work session, and I would like those exact
I can
figures from you.
read it. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Are we, so we're not holding anybody, we wouldn't be setting anybody back to like this original column and then making the adjustment next year, we'd be making the whole adjustment for the 12,000 this year to put everybody in this new.
That's what I would assume, is that's the intent here.
sure, well, that would
Well, the original proposal was place me B8, whatever, that I was last year for this year. And then next year slide me over. That was the original proposition. I wanna take it back for this year and apply it for next year. I don't think you can take it back, cause we've already been paying in the MA column, that type of stuff. So that would have to be a board decision. Is it for this year that we're
Or we
going
just
down?
come up with the 12,000, with the actual 12,000 with the 10 people
Yep.
that you see or we see, and then we vote on that next time.
Those are the people that made lane changes. that-
right, and that's what we're
There's
talking about.
That
So
would
if you
have
go
one
through
too.
the lane changes, have the lane change number sheet, say yay or nay for all 10
Yeah.
lane changes in one big swoop. Okay. Put it on the
You got that, Tasia?
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I
Clarify.
am I contacting Victoria? I'm sorry, I'm still foggy on,
Please,
okay,
we need something in writing.
that she's in agreement that you,
Oh,
like,
just her opinion.
okay,
Yeah, why,
we can agree or disagree with her, we're just asking her opinion because we consider her the expert.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we're gonna follow her advice because we didn't last time in some
And
of
I
the
can
areas.
tell you that-
But that's,
Yeah.
What'd she say, Lori, when you?
She said that it all depends on how much money you have.
Yep.
That's what she said. She said
Over
there's.
$1 million, even less now.
well, we will know exactly how much money we're gonna spend.
Okay.
It was up to us how we implement it.
Uh-huh.
And, this is strictly a situation where it involved lane changes, so it's strictly with our teaching staff. So, I
And
think
with
it's,
masters level. It's not-
I think there are
There's
she's
some lane
saying-
changes in the B8,
B8
B12,
12,
you
12,
know, there are
46,
some
yeah.
there that are going to be affected as well.
Yeah.
So
There's some of
the biggest move is obviously into the masters column.
All right, let's get some numbers.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
all right,
Sorry for the extra work.
handbook updates. I think we have that also. I really appreciate you guys going out to the middle border.
And I
That
added
was
River
so
Falls and,
helpful.
I added River Falls and Hudson into that with the middle border just because they're so close in proximity. And we have good contacts in both those districts.
But they're also so much bigger than us.
Right.
So
Who's
their
that?
numbers,
We compete for people.
River Falls and Hudson. I mean,
But, you know,
they can do things.
we belong to a
their store.
conference for a reason, that's why I just soon use middle border conference, but when you're in the area, you know, just like Victoria's work, you know, she was using Stillwater, she was using Hudson.
And New
You know,
Richmond is,
Cause we compete against the same, same
But we
people.
compete against them whether they're our size or not for staff.
Right.
for,
You know,
yeah,
we might not be apples to oranges in athletics,
Well, I'm just
but
saying,
a
like,
teacher doesn't, a teacher, if they're applying in all three districts,
for benefits
and
and
for
but I mean,
benefits
their
and-
health insurance, they fund fully in-house.
Hudson does.
Hudson does.
Hudson, are they
because of the size
self-insured?
are.
Because they're so big, so is
Yeah.
Stillwater.
Mhm.
So that's something we
Does River Falls as well?
I don't know.
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think so.
They probably don't.
I think River Falls is still with WEA.
I think you might be right.
What the heck did I do with
Um,
the sheet you gave me?
So I wanted to
That's
just
it.
point out, oh, I should pass these out. I have sheets for everybody and yep, so I have the one is what we talked about last time. I just printed another copy in case you were looking for your one from last time. And then the survey results and then the costing that was on that tab that Mark sent out over the weekend. There's a line item on there with a little pinkish hue to it on both pages. I had not included what we did do for admin, tuition and credit reimbursement. My misunderstanding, they aren't governed in the handbook, so I didn't have it in the handbook.
Yep, that's fine, because that's a totally different thing.
That's in their contract, but the question was asked what we do, and so it's in this document now. And I added it into the one, Marie, so you should be able to see it if you have the link from the, survey results.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea or philosophy of reimbursing an admin is because they don't have steps and lanes. So it isn't, their salary doesn't automatically go up every 15 credits or every, like teachers do. So, in my own district, admin gets reimbursed because they don't have a lane change when they get more credits or when they get a master's. They get their credits reimbursed. Teachers, the minute we apply for that lane change, we get it. And we have always felt that we get back because we got the lane change. I have never in my career ever been reimbursed for a credit as a teacher. But as an administrator, I would feel like I would need to be, because there's no lane change.
We have the same thing.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Thanks for that.
So I just think we have to be careful in looking at what we give administrators versus what we have for teachers. They don't always have to be the same. I mean, we want them to be as much as possible, but.
They are not the same.
Right, exactly.
They are definitely not the same. Okay, so. Where'd Mark go?
I don't know.
Do you wanna start with our document? Does this document match our document from last time?
Correct, the only thing might be, oh, no, the other one last time too had that, I had added in accumulate one per month for the supervisory support staff.
So we can start at the top and go
Yeah.
through the same
Sure.
order?
Yeah, I just didn't know if everybody would bring theirs, so
Last time.
there's an additional copy.
So the first one is the support staff compensation for
Unused sick leave.
time.
So it looks like the majority of the other districts do that, upon retirement only.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
On a basic retirement.
Up to though, how many can support staff accumulate?
I think it might be the same as teachers, which would be 90.
90, yes.
I think it's 90.
Yeah. So, but paid out,
I think we looked at that.
Upon
last
retirement, what do teachers get to take for their sick days payout?
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, so why are we letting support staff do it?
Well, that was one of the things the teachers had asked for as well.
Oh,
That was on the list.
I can tell you that's gone across the river.
You don't get paid on retirement?
0. You don't take any sick days with you.
Well, in your district.
Correct, I'm just telling you.
Okay.
And our teachers don't get it. I'm, if we wanna stay the same,
I'm gonna grab the handbook.
I'm gonna ask Jody a question.
I'm just gonna grab the handbook so I can flip to it.
Because right now, we have some, and this is on the list, it's gonna be coming up, where if you don't use, a certain number of sick days, remember we talked about that last time? That if you don't use a certain number of sick days in this particular year, you get some cash at the end of the year.
That's back on the second page.
Do we have that for support staff currently?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Supervisory, yes, I can't speak to
Support.
support staff, for sure.
I would almost guess it's just supervisory.
So teachers have something. But the other thing is, we're going through so many support staff, and I think it's important that we do something to make working in Somerset more attractive to our support staff, so that we get qualified people and they stay in the district. It, is not helping our student achievement to have a high turnover of staff, that's for absolute sure.
I could not agree more. Like, I think the benefits picture is just so very different between the various groups. And the support staff is just,
The thing is, everyone's having the same conversations with support staff. It just is, when the economy's good, people are finding jobs with benefits and higher pay. They do that. We've been able to fill our positions. You know, we're not letting anything go empty right now. Again, you know, the survey work here kind of gives you an insight into what, you know, other districts are doing.
yeah.
Well, we can give them so many days at the end of retirement, but it's certainly not gonna be 90.
Well, I would like to be consistent, you know, if we're gonna
Well,
put in
there's
a policy.
consistency, and then there's, you know, doctors receive, nurses aides receive, the custodial staff receives. It's an industry standard that there's differences in benefits. And I don't know how this is any different.
There's
If we lump everybody into one group, we're not gonna be able to sustain the expense of it.
There's where I work here, I have the same benefits as the governor.
I have the same benefits as everybody else I work with throughout the county.
I don't.
I work for a public entity, do you?
I don't work for the public entity.
Yeah, but this is a public entity, and, I'm not, all I was saying was if we're creating a new policy, it should be consistent.
I'm not saying right or wrong, I'm looking at the sustainability of it. I know
I agree.
moving
That's
it off,
important.
I'm not knocking anybody here. I'm just saying there's a cost associated on this right-hand column that
I agree.
is it even feasible to do these things? And that's why,
Well, I'm not sure, paying out at retirement is going to be a big incentive either. The other thing I'm looking at is how difficult it is to get subs for our teachers and our support staff. So perhaps a better option might be creating some type of plan similar to what the teachers currently have, that if they use 0 days in a year, they get a certain dollar amount. If they use 1 day, they get another dollar amount.
We could always match what the teachers have right now for support staff.
Obviously
It would be
incentives
nice to
help,
be
but it's just,
consistent.
like Bob says, how much you wanna lay out there.
But how many support staff actually retire from the school
Exactly.
district? I mean, they move on, they don't,
Very few.
so if it were a benefit that
We
was
have
given,
some
what would?
support staff who've been here for over 20 years.
We do,
So,
but it's a small, not like teachers, you know, I feel, and you can look up there and see how many of them, for their 25 years, spent their careers here, or, you know, that would have accumulated enough to get a big payout. I don't know how much the cost associated would be, that it's not something that a lot of our staff is retiring from.
Do we agree that we wanna give them something, yes or no? That is,
Yes.
I do.
will it be if it's an incentive to get them to stay?
I would like it to be an incentive to keep them here, and I'd like it to be an incentive so that, they use fewer days out if they can, just because of the difficulty with subs that everybody is having. I mean, there was wasn't there an article on the front page of the paper a week or two ago about the lack of substitutes in the area?
Okay, so Bob, you're suggesting something similar to the teachers. However, the dollar amount should not be the same, because the sub to pay the support staff is very different than the sub to pay a certified staff. So I believe that we should incentivize them if they have so many days left at the end of the year, they haven't used their sick days, maybe so much per day or something on a yearly basis, if they, yeah,
With the yearly, I don't think of retirement,
right, instead of a retirement.
just the yearly, just like teacher.
But the dollar amount should not be the same as teaching staff, because the idea is if a teacher doesn't need a sub, that money is saved,
$120 a day, yeah.
but so it should be a different dollar amount.
You don't agree with a different dollar amount?
No, I technically agree with your conversation. It's just that I fundamentally disagree with incentivizing people to show up if they're sick. So
yeah.
I will be
Uh-huh.
voting no on
Okay,
that,
yeah.
and I just want to be clear.
You would rather stick with the incentivizing for the retirement?
What I think we should do is try to make steps towards offering more decent health insurance benefits, get that more equal, as if you look at the other districts, they do,
Okay.
and we do not. I think that is more inspirational.
But Bob, you wanna go more on the
Well, that's,
Bruce?
That's Bruce, Bob's over here.
knock on wood,
Yeah.
I don't think I've had a sick day in
Yeah,
ever, so I think I'm good with a year.
Bob?
what are we on right now?
Well, do you want to do something in this area, yes or no? And if you do,
Yeah, I'm planning on, I'm up on retirement.
upon retirement, okay. Patty Jo?
I agree with the health insurance, but I don't think that's something that would even pass. I don't think anyone else would, I don't think it would be a majority thing here to even do, so. I would do retirement.
I'm having a hard time hearing.
I thought we
I
were,
do think we need to look at the health insurance, so especially looking at the survey. 7 of their schools have the same plan premium based on work hours, and only 1 has a different plan. The rest of them have the same in some way, shape,
just
or form.
prorated.
Right, so I don't know why,
Is there
Ours
something
are-
you'd wanna do after 5 years of service, 10 years of service, offer something?
Sooner, I would say.
You know,
yeah,
just saying, you know,
Did this proposal that we have for the 350, does that consider the same thing
That was everything.
that the other people have, that it's prorated based on,
which one are you talking about, Bruce?
for this insurance?
Health insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the 350, does that? I'm looking,
It says health insurance to match other
same
groups.
plan, prorated based on school year.
And that was,
Is that the same that
The-
GA counted us the 350 for? Or
it
is that
was,
something different?
it was just everybody on the plan as is. There was
Yeah, I know it was
not a
350.
prorated.
prorated.
David,
So I'm guessing that
there was
would
no
make a
proration
difference.
in that estimation from JE County, correct?
I don't think there was, I don't know if it addressed just premium or if it talked about HRA as well.
Yeah.
No, when we were talking about that, because we took percentages of the number of people that are on our policies now in different group, or teaching groups, and applied that to if the support staff, if we offered it to the support staff, and that's where they came up with a number of, it would be an additional cost to us of $350 a year, which, you know, that's,
Wouldn't it cost them a lot more money out of their check to use it as well?
well, it
I
depends.
mean, that's
on
what
the-
I'm looking at, because, you know, all the teachers have to pay out of their check for this insurance, so I mean, that's gonna cost them
Well, this was a similar, you know,
$100 a pay period to do it, which if you're really making
That's
$400 a pay
when I
period.
heard the 350 number, I was kind of like, ooh.
I'm just saying, I mean, how many
No.
people are gonna take it even if they,
But you can make gradual steps towards that. That was really what.
How do you make a gradual step, help me understand?
Well, right now, they're required to pay
50%?
Yeah, 50%. So why can't you, you know, increase or decrease their portion of that to 40% for this year? Instead of 50, 40% of the premium to make it a little bit more tolerable. You can go and babysit, you don't even have to do it every year, but I do think this board should really make steps to.
So going back to the
Anyway.
incentivizing, you're making the argument that don't even worry about this payout for sick days. Make a baby step in a health insurance benefit instead.
Yeah.
And you think that would be more incentivizing
Well, yeah.
than paying out on a sick day?
I guess, I would need more information on the health. I guess
For
I
money
fully
wise.
don't understand it, yeah, and what it actually is and what they're,
There aren't that
what
many
we're
who
offering
take it.
them,
There aren't
you
that
know,
many who
anyway,
take
and
it.
how it's different than what we're offering now, I guess.
Do you,
What do
can
we
you
have
tell
here?
us how
How many do we
many
have to take?
support staff currently take what we offer now?
Less than 5.
I would say between 5 and 10
People or person?
people.
People.
And I cannot tell you
Because you
the
can't afford it.
breakdown, I can't tell you the breakdown off the top of my head of single versus family.
No, it's okay.
Um,
Come on.
You know, but,
You think it's as high as 10?
I'm surprised, I thought it was only 1 or 2.
Me too.
no, there are more, and I just signed another one up today, a new hire that is taking family insurance, so I mean, there are people taking it.
So
There are people not taking it that are, you know,
Who might if it was more affordable at all.
I see what you're saying about, you know, let's prioritize and what's the most important. And I don't know what that is, and I don't know that it's up to us as a board to prioritize for the support staff. Maybe we should be asking them.
Right, that's a good point, yeah.
Because I think this is a bigger picture than, oh, should we pay them for a sick day? I think this is a bigger picture than that.
so I would offer, if you're interested, a couple question survey to all of our support staff then, like we did to the Middle Border Conference, saying what, you know, incentivizes you to want to, or, you know, that type of stuff, not saying we're
What do you
negotiating,
think would
but,
incentivize
you know,
And we could put it
To
in a really
stay.
positive, the board is really interested in keeping you. We value your service and we've noticed this high rate of turnover. We're looking at some things to possibly keep you. What are some things that might keep you with this district? And
you know,
That would be awesome.
I mean, if you're looking for their input, then,
Absolutely, yes.
That would have been a great thing for the employee council to talk about.
you know.
Hey.
Oh,
Jeez.
she's absolutely right.
Well, but it can come out, I mean, then it goes to everybody, everybody's results come in electronically, it's not one person's reporting back of who they talk to, it's everybody gets a chance and a voice to be heard, and you guys can all see the results, just
Yes.
I mean, we can do it that way.
Yes, because this is a bigger picture than just a sick day.
But then, can we, I mean, just for my benefit, can we get a little more of what this is? I mean, what this 350 is getting us, I guess, or what would actually be a cost maybe, even before, as
Well,
we're
that's
getting.
their
the-
estimated premium increases to our plan.
If everybody, if
No,
every
not
single
every-
support
nope,
staff?
Nope, they used, we
One
took,
time.
that's what I just explained before, we looked at the percentages of the people that have certified staff
Currently?
that are on
Okay.
there, what percentage?
Yep,
Okay,
got it.
just gonna throw a number, if it's 50%, I said, okay, let's take 50% of the support staff, how many is that, boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
And they ran the numbers for us, this was last, I don't know, spring or whatever, we talked about it, and, you know, we said, well, it'd be roughly around another $350,000 on your, what do we pay now, 2 million, Dave?
That's
What's
kind of
our-
the worst case
what's our
scenario.
impro-
Yeah,
1
That would be
million,
the-
okay. But I was surprised at the number of people, what the cost would be, but that's.
Well, we got a lot of stuff we're gonna talk about on here. We're gonna keep moving.
Signal lost.
Jody, when it says, do you give your support staff sick days up front? So we right now give them 1 per month?
Accumulating, and I believe it's up to 10 based on, you know, summer school doesn't count, that type of stuff. It's
Right.
the September.
10-month contract?
Yeah, September through June contract.
And it looks to me like that's not unusual.
No, that is not, and I'm not trying to jump around, but, on the second page, some of Trevor's comment talks about if you pay it all up front and then people leave, that was a question you guys had. So
Yeah.
his response there addresses that. So,
So there could be some language.
there could be language, how enforceable it is.
Right.
If it's more than their final paycheck, you mean?
Right.
You can only take
A
down to
percentage.
minimum wage. Right. So, if you've used 12 sick days and you've been here 3 weeks, I don't think there's any minimum wage left,
Yeah,
you know,
we
I
don't
mean,
have any-
yeah,
Yeah.
so.
So how, is this something that support staff feels really strongly about, or is this an incentivized?
I think it's gonna be part of that question that Jody sends out to the support staff.
Okay.
I think we should, I would suggest that we skip the ones on support staff until we hear what their priorities are.
So you'll include that one in the question too?
I can.
Okay.
How do we know how any of these groups' priorities are?
That's a good point. But hopefully, we're not looking at, a big item like insurance for all the groups.
Well, a lot of them are gonna be dictated by budget.
This stuff actually did come from the employee council.
All of it did, every one of them.
And,
So they care about all of it.
yeah, they do. And
How much of that information from the employee council gets out to the regular general?
this
all
is
the other
what we're
teachers?
discussing right now, which is, she's gonna send a survey out.
And we
which
have
we had
a-
asked for previously.
Yeah. And we have a handful of new support staff employees
Yeah.
this year that
Yeah. with that
we
high
haven't heard
turnover.
from, so they'll be included.
Okay, good. So we have 3 decisions to make on these bottom 3?
On the bottom 3.
Yep, do the credit reimbursements for teachers.
Mm.
And right now, we do $20 per credit for a teacher?
Correct.
Correct.
On the second page,
Shows the money, the
shows
dollars.
the 18-19, what was reimbursed, it's kind of 2/3 of the way down the page.
$1,440.
Yep, for teachers, and then in 17-18, it was $1,040, that was at the $20 a piece, so the 1440 divided by 20, like that's 72 credits. So if you did it at $30, that's your number on the side there.
Gotcha.
If you upped it to 30, so that's what it would have cost. So, just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it's like throwing a suitcase on the Queen Mary to increase the load. I mean, it's nothing.
Thanks, Jody, for running that survey. I think it's really informative, especially on this one.
On which one?
On the credits, on the reimbursement for credits done by the districts, the various districts.
Oh, from the middle word, okay.
What does no all staff mean? I was wondering that.
No,
Nobody.
they don't do it for any of their staff.
Okay.
I could have said any staff or no to all staff. So you have one district, it's $50 per
All
credit.
staff is credited.
And
Okay.
that number 3, that's what my district and my whole
Yeah,
career
there
has
are
been.
some that it's built into how they advance. You know, the district grant application, that one could be really tricky.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
First
no.
come, first serve.
Yeah, I'm a
That
no
sounds
on that
terrible.
Although you know you're budgeted to the amount every year,
Right.
you know,
one.
so.
First come, first serve. It just seems a little, I don't know, I'm not for that one.
But
Yeah.
we, you know, we're all over the place. We're, you know, 5,000 for administrators, 2,000 for supervisory support staff,
That's, yeah, up to,
2,000,
up
yeah,
to 2,000.
and $20 per graduate credit for a teacher.
But
I
with-
mean,
With no limit, so, I mean, so if you did 10 credits, you could have the 2,000 also. Or
200.
200, I mean, if, I'm sorry. Yeah.
right.
So, I'm sorry, I said that wrong.
It's okay.
But if you increase it to whatever dollar amount, then maybe putting a cap, like the other groups have a cap in them. Like maybe instead of per credit, it's up to X amount per year.
Well,
However you.
I can tell you that if that were me, I wouldn't even bother. Who would bother applying? You just spent $4,000 to get some credits, and you're gonna apply to get $100.
Yeah, but you're gonna move over in your lanes too.
Right, that, see, I just don't even think it's even of value to have it there.
Part of it is
After.
part of the process of, they get the credits approved before they take them, saying these will count towards your
Yeah.
masters, whatever, so it's all part of that process. And then when they turn that in, the credit
They get their check
reimbursement
for
happens.
$120.
Right, so, yeah, so
Which they do, I know.
people do, yeah, so.
You know, it's been $20 for
I bet, a decade.
ever,
Since
no,
credits were
decades.
A couple $100 of credits.
Yeah,
$600,
the
$700
credits are
a credit?
$500, not $600.
So what do you want it to be at? Cause
Well-
we're not gonna get through this thing by going, is there, throw something out, want that right?
I'm a 0, I think it should be gotten rid of,
$50,
but that's just me.
honestly, I don't care.
I'm fine with
What do
leaving
you
it as it is at $20. I don't, we have it set up here that if you
Let it
have
go.
more.
I'm fine with that too.
I think we should increase it.
I think it should be increased with the cap. Support staff.
I think it should increase. I mean, we want our newer teacher, we have a lot of new teachers too.
Yeah, but
With
after,
getting their
We want to
credits.
you
increase
basically
them.
get $100 of credit once you get your increase.
You know, our new schedule is very advantageous to new
So like if you are a
It
BA
moves
zero,
them along
you get
really
12
After 12
credits.
credits.
12 credits, you get $1,500 increase, so you get $100 of credit once you get to 12.
But you just put yourself $20,000 in debt to get those 15 credits. I mean,
No.
that's the,
No, 15 credits is not $20,000.
No, but
I thought we were talking grad credits,
Well, yeah.
$600 a credit. My math is way off.
Yeah.
But still, $6,000, let's say, and we're giving them 100, and then they get 1,500, and they still.
But then they get a lane change.
And teachers, we know we do get the lane change, and we know we don't get to make that up in 1 year. We know it's gonna take anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 years till you actually pay for that credit. So, is this something we have to decide right now tonight, or does this go to, does this have to be a motion? No, we don't
We're
have
just
to.
discussing all these tonight.
we're just
Okay,
discussing.
so,
If you get consensus on something, we'll put it on the agenda for the work for the
Well, I
May
think,
meeting.
just correct me if I'm wrong, but this stuff is so that we can update the handbook with this language, so that it's in there for the first reading, whenever that is able to happen.
okay,
So not, we wouldn't necessarily need individual motions on any of this, just a matter of yes, to have us put it in the handbook for the first reading, or don't bother, leave it out, correct?
Yes.
That was how we started
That's
this,
the
yes.
game plan.
Well, leave everything as is what you're saying,
It just,
but put it into the handbook.
we were hoping to just say there's some things in here you just don't wanna change, and then they don't have to put that in.
I'm fine with just leaving it as it is.
And then when we come to the approval handbook, you can make your changes.
I'd like to increase it to $30.
I'll go with that.
Me too.
That's a compromise.
Fine.
Okay, we're done, we got one. All right, move on.
So that moves to the business session then, right?
I don't think we need
No,
to
no.
move it to the,
Well, you
that
put
will,
it in the.
We'll
I'll
put
go
it
in
in the
the handbook.
handbook,
Okay,
and once we get
okay.
consensus on what we wanna do with these, then.
Okay.
Okay, so take a look at the next one, the stipends. Right now, we have that percentage of teacher base.
Yeah.
But here's my thinking on that.
I like
That,
the flat
that makes
hour.
us pay every coach the same, right, no matter what sports?
No.
Okay, then explain that to me.
So they take a look at like the size of the program, the hours spent with students, like there's something that built whatever. So I'm just going to
Typically
say
length of season.
the length of the season. So some sports, I'm gonna use head coaches and then, so your varsity coach might get 11%. Another varsity coach might get 7% of the teacher base. But was developed on this
Hours of
formula of
students. Okay.
that.
And length of the season and the
Yep,
danger
and
of the
then-
sport.
As numbers change, you might have 2 or 3 assistants at 3% or, that type of stuff. And so it's always been percentages off the base.
And do we feel this system is fair?
I'd rather see a flat fee.
Flat fee for any sport?
Well, you can,
So, like, let's say right now, if football
with
was
the base,
$8,000 for your
then it's
varsity
gonna
coach, and I'm
change.
making up numbers. Going forward, we would just say it's an $8,000 stipend.
Yep.
And you would have like a dollar amount stipend, not a percentage of the base stipend. But then some districts come back and say everything gets 1.5% increase this year. So if one thing increases, everything might. So that's what 7 of the 10 districts kind of do, is a flat dollar amount. And then they reassess that from time to time. Should we add a percentage onto that, or should we,
Trying to figure out what that $5 amount is then?
Well, I
Well,
think we would
that's not-
start with what we have as our dollar amount.
That wouldn't be anything hard to figure out in that, but
And
back when your salary schedules were getting a kick all the time, everyone was getting, even the activities were getting raises, but, the base was froze for so long.
Right, it's
I don't
kind
know how long.
of kitty-wampus.
So no one was getting increases in the activities either.
Yeah.
So this gives us more flexibility.
I think it does.
It would be run through the athletics department instead of just off the teacher base.
Okay. What's the, Bruce, what's the consensus here then?
I like it the way it is.
Okay, I'm a flat fee.
I'm a flat fee.
I don't care.
Oh, I'm a flat fee.
Yeah, we can do a flat fee.
Flat fee?
Marie?
Marie?
Flat, flat.
Flat, flat, flat.
Flat earther.
All right, moving on.
Summer school teachers?
Yeah,
Do we have a set rate that they make right now?
Currently, they make, if you're a BA0, step 1 teacher, I'm gonna call it $27.70 an hour, I don't know that for sure, but
Yep.
that's what everybody makes as a teacher per hour,
Everybody,
all teachers,
for summer school.
or summer school. Support staff would get 50% of that hourly rate, so $13.35 or whatever it might be. So that's how we do it.
So is this flat rate
Some
the same
districts,
thing? Or is it, if you were an
Well,
MA,
some-
you'd get $33 an
no,
hour?
a lot of districts just say, all summer school teachers get $35, I'm making up a number, but $35 an hour. And then some say support staff get what they normally make during the school year. Because right now, a lot of our summer school support staff are making less per hour as summer school aides than they are doing this school year, doing the same work.
oh.
So, but it's because it's based on 50% of
Of
the
the
teacher
teachers.
base. So if you said support, so that's how some districts do it, just giving you 7 of them, the paras get their school year rate, and then the teachers, it's a flat, whether you're a guidance counselor, a teacher, you know, it's a flat dollar amount.
That seems to make sense.
Fine.
I like flat.
Yep, flat,
Everyone else.
I like doing what everybody else is doing in that regard.
all right.
If that's what everyone would do it, would you?
Yes. Is there anything else on there? I don't think so.
And then next
Good
year,
God.
we'll all switch and we'll be the only ones doing it.
Is there anything else on the handbook?
Kind of, yes.
Oh, yeah.
If you go to page 2, we talked a little bit about Trevor's response to if we paid sick day up front, but we're gonna postpone that discussion until we survey.
Right,
Yeah.
Who's not gonna want their sick days all the time? I mean,
Well,
that's.
with the caveat, you have to pay them back. Some people may say, don't put me in that position. So,
If they can't
Yeah,
figure out
yeah.
year-round pay, then I don't think they'll be able to figure out the sick pay.
yeah. So probationary period language, this is what Trevor has written for us to use for all support staff, not teachers, because they're under their own contract, but support staff, language, and it's very, general. It doesn't say if you're a 12-month person, it's this long, if you're a 9-month person, it's this long. It's for your first contract year, so it just is, and that is ready to go. Then we talked a little bit last time about, and this is the one where some people feel like we're incentivizing people to be here sick.
Well.
Which is not.
That's what
Yeah.
my wellness people would say.
So, we put here historically what's been paid out by contract year on the right-hand side in that box. You can see like the $300, 2 people got it. 3 people got $250, 200 people, or $200 was paid to 1 person and then $150 to 1. So, we had talked about changing that number to something different, and I think you guys had said like,
Adding a 4th or something.
yeah, or like, what if we changed it to 36 instead of 90 days? And I quick did that, kind of calculation, how many people would be, eligible right now. So in 18-19, 9 people were eligible at 90 days, 7 out of the 9 got paid out, so about 70%. So if we did it on the 36 days, that's 74 would be eligible. If they all made $300, you would be looking at a cost of about $17,400 additional. I'm not saying every one of those 50 or 58 people would get the 300. I just
Yeah, but overestimated, yeah. that's a lot of money.
overestimated, and it was a 90-page report
You
of
have to
kind
give
of
the worst
calculating it.
case.
Yep. So if you change it by something, like lowered the 90 to, just lowered the 90 to 36, that's what it would be. It may help with your sub shortage, then again, it may or may not, I mean. So, and that's only if they use sick time. You could still use personal time. That's only incentivizing on sick time, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Well,
Have to add the 100 and the 50, right?
Yep.
For 4 days, 100 and.
Yep, and you could just start with that step and
Yeah,
say,
let's
let's
just start with
just
that
do the
step. I'm up for
4
that.
days.
I'm not, what does it get you in the end there? I mean, $50 and you're taxed on it, so you get $33.
I know.
And it's, you guys gotta do the work on it. It's a lot of work for $40 or something. Because then you're taxed on it.
That's true.
And then
but-
pays themselves to have this wonderful school district.
But it puts more work on people for someone missing 4 days of school.
Is it a lot of work?
Rod goes through it manually to see who qualifies and then does a payroll and, so,
No, I-
but for the people, that are getting it, it's not a lot of work. So, I don't know if it really needs any adjustment.
I'm fine with the way it is. I haven't had any complaints or anybody calling me on it. Bruce,
Yeah, I can leave it as is.
leave it as is.
I mean, if we wanna go $100 for 4 days, I'm fine with that, but I'm fine with it as is.
Katie?
I want people to use their,
Leave it
time if
as
they're
it is.
sick.
Okay, Bob, leave it as it
I'm
is.
just fine with it.
I'm fine with
I'm fine with it too.
I'd like to lower the days from 90 to 45.
What?
Fine, but I think the rest of us will leave it as is.
What are you talking? I don't want to.
What else?
What's the question?
That's all.
Okay. So is that it for that, number 7?
Yes.
Okay. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's already 8:25. Does anybody have a lot of stuff on these?
I was wondering about the implementation on the 2 new ones. Historically, why would they be added?
Marie, can you answer that, or who put them on there?
I didn't hear her question.
My question is why the 2 new ones are proposed to be added.
So the 2 new ones being,
One is board staff communications and the other one is employee expense reimbursement,
It was hers.
Yep.
which we didn't
That
go
was-
through that one.
Yes,
So the other one is the board staff communications. Why would that be added?
because we wanted to reconsider how board and staff communicate, and particularly around the events that occurred with the employee council. There was a concern that we weren't allowing the employees to have a voice, and so this was a proposed or potential policy we could consider.
How does threatening to reprimand them encourage communication?
What do you mean? I'm sorry, I'm missing where you're saying we're reprimanding.
Not following chain of command.
So this is a proposal we can reconsider what, but I do think we need to start to look at how can we improve communications, but having it follow some kind of agreed upon process. So that if it's beneficial for one to hear it, we all hear it. If it's beneficial for the administrator to be influenced or I'm missing the word, consulted maybe is a word for it, talked to, included in the discussion.
Well,
I just think we need to revisit how
when is
we
that not
handle-
happening? I guess I just really don't understand. So, I for some reason, I can't bring it up right now.
I know I'm locked out. I can't move anything.
Can't bring that policy up, but, it's very vague. Oh, thank you. And it talks about, well, they're expected to follow the established chain of communication and chain of command. Failure to do so may result in employee discipline. And then it says, all communications from staff members related to the performance of their job duties or responsibilities to the board or its committees shall be submitted through the district administrator. So let me finish. I would like some type of examples of what that means. So what does it mean when it says related to the performance of their job duties? So if we have a policy in front of us that's before the board on an agenda item, are they going to get in trouble for reaching out to us because they can only send it through the district administrator? It's really not clear.
So why do we bring these policies before the board on the work sessions? To be able to discuss what we can agree on and what we maybe would like to see changed. So if you have something you would like to see worded differently, what would you like to see?
I don't know why this type of policy would be why we would have it. I just feel like we have so many teachers that live within our voting district that vote for us by saying, you guys who voted for us can't talk. It's not just taking away their chain of command there, but it's also taking away their voice as a voter.
I'm not seeing it in the same way that you are. It was suggested that we weren't being transparent and not communicating well, and that's what we would lose if we did not use the employee council. So this is another way to look at it. I'm not saying this is what I think we definitely should have, but I do think we need to look at it.
This particular policy was brought before the board in 2015 when the board first adopted Neola. I don't remember if you were on the board then or not, Catherine. The board had committees at that time, and they went through every single Neola policy, and Randy Rosberg asked me to be a part of that committee, particularly for the policies that affected support staff and professional staff. And in 2015, when this particular policy was brought before the board, they voted it down. They did not want this policy because they wanted to ensure open communication. And also for the same reason that Patty Jo was talking about, that how can you tell people that they cannot talk to their elected representative? So I'm just giving you a little bit of history here. This policy did come before the board in 2015, and the board at that time voted it down. They did not want to implement such a policy.
I'm not sure why this is even
So,
brought forward.
in situations where we would have a teacher that has whatever issue, struggle, concern, that would bypass their building supervisor, bypass the district administrator, and go directly to a board member, I think this is encouraging, and granted, the language might not be good, but encouraging them to go to the building principal to say, here, I
And
have
follow
an
the
issue.
chain of command.
And then go up to the
I've
district.
never
And
not
then-
had that kind of conversation with somebody.
I
I mean, they all do it, but
But outside of that, I think that is the primary.
no, this is to say
Okay.
to employees.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah,
I think what I'm
This is
saying is, I
threatening
think the
them.
intent was to achieve that piece, but you're not listening to me.
I am.
I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm saying I feel that that's what it's trying to convey, and it's not obviously doing a very good job of that.
Well, this even has social interaction with board
Right.
members, so I mean, staff and board members can't have.
Right.
I guess I'm missing where you're seeing that, Patty Jo, because as I read C, social interaction, I'm not reading it in the same way, or I must be missing something. Because it's encouraging that kind of conversation.
It says discussions between staff and board members related to the performance of job duties, responsibilities are inappropriate violations of the chain of command, which I understand and I get that, but having something like that in place when there may be relationships that you talk about your day, that I feel like that it would just be kind of shooting ourselves in the foot.
Well, I'd like us to come up with something where we're working together as a team rather than feeling like I don't want to feel like I'm undermining anyone, not the board members that I work with, not the administration, and not teachers. So I want us to come up with a respectful way of gathering feedback and communicating with all that are involved, respecting all that are being either accused of something or recipients on the other side.
I don't know what you mean about being accused of something. This
Well,
is a
sometimes when
policy
we're-
you're bringing forward in response to the kerfuffle over the employee council. And so the way around what you're doing right now is saying, we're gonna threaten the employees if you continue. And that's
How
just
am I-
unacceptable.
How
So-
am I saying I'm going to
It's in the
threaten?
policy. It's in this policy that somebody put on the agenda. I know I certainly didn't.
I asked for us to put something on the agenda that we can consider. I'm not saying this is written in stone, but I do think we need to be more respectful of those that get accused, whether it's a staff member or an administrator or a fellow board member. We have to find a more respectful way of interacting. This is a start.
Accused of what?
So do we think this is a policy that we want to,
I
we
do
don't
not.
wanna bring this one forward, but do we
I do
wanna look
not.
at anything like this as far as? No,
I feel like as an elected official.
Mark?
Just a couple comments about this. My feelings about this, I would say about 70 or 80% of the things that happen around here, I'm the last one to know about. I think my principals are getting blindsided by things. I think we need some real hard discussions on chain of command. Somebody comes to me with an issue about a principal or a teacher, what have you, my first response is, have you talked to that person yet? Before I even get involved with it, if you haven't had a conversation with the principal or the teacher, you know what, have that first. Now, is there sometimes some extenuating circumstances where that'd be a knockdown drag out? I'll step in. But again, I would just hope that when people come to you with an issue, you would say, have you talked to that teacher? Have you talked to that principal? Have you talked to the superintendent about this? And I just got a sneaky suspicion and feeling that that doesn't happen all the time. And I've never worked in a district like that where there isn't an observed chain of command. And over the things we've dealt with over the last 3 years, again, I'm one of the last people to know what goes on in this district because you guys all have your networks, you do. Your constituents, you talk to people. But all you'd have to say is, Mark, I'm hearing this, what about this? And I don't get that call. And that's all what I would say about this. Whatever you wanna do with the policy, fine. It's just that I can't be a mind reader on a lot of these issues that we're challenged with until, you know, somebody said this. Well, tell me who so I could talk to them and find out. No, I don't wanna tell you who. Well, come on. We're working on the same team here and we wanna make things better. But I don't know if it has to be in policy or not, but we need to adhere to some type of chain of command because I'm not a mind reader. That's my gut, that's what I'm feeling.
Like you gotta, I can't get any specifics out of what you just said. I can't tell if you're frustrated because you feel like employees are not, are going to a board member or.
Well, it happens all the time, I'm not that naive.
conversation with
I
the
know
board
you guys
member.
have connections with people and they come to you guys for whatever reason. And, you know, there's probably 100 examples I could rip off here, but I'm not gonna do that. It's just the common courtesy.
And I've done that, you know I've done that. You know, I mean, we've talked
Well,
numerous
he's
times.
just saying, overall, we have a problem with this apparently, if he feels, if our administrator feels that 70% of it is happening. Tasia, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna voice, and I could be reading this completely different, but as a employee who lives and votes in the district, I would read this as, if I have an issue with something specific to my job duty or performance or that sort of thing, that I should follow the chain of command. Doesn't mean that I couldn't come to you and talk about concerns about the district as a whole, as far as what I'd like to see for improvements and that sort of stuff. If that, so as a voter, that's what I wouldn't say that means I couldn't come to you and talk about anything. It's just I would feel this would, I don't wanna say put me in the order of, if I have something specific about my job duties, performance, and that sort of thing, my first step would be to go to my supervisor before I would come to a board member.
Let's say if there's a hypothetical situation, the person thinks they went to the board, their supervisor, and they went to the teacher, and they went to the principal, and they feel like they're getting nowhere. Now, if they come to the board member to get something done, they could get reprimanded for it, even though they think
No,
that they would be.
not at all, Patty Jo. Tonight, I'm just gonna make this example tonight with the situation with the exception to the policy. You know what? Give that person credit, they went through the chain. I said no several times, and my suggestion was send Maria a text and tell her, or an email, say, here's the issue and here's what you want. You know, that's the next step. Okay, it was here to you. That's the way it should happen.
And I told her to sit down with you and Jody, just for the record.
And, you know, she did several times.
And I have never had an employee come to me about any issue whatsoever that everybody involved wasn't already aware of. Whether it be a teacher, a parent, support staff, and whatever the chain of command is, it's always been followed. And it's one of the first questions I ask as well. And it's always been followed.
So you don't feel there's a need for this policy?
No, if the
My only
point of
student
it is to make sure that the chain of command is being followed, I have never personally encountered a situation where it wasn't followed.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm hearing that 70% of it isn't. What do you think?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any statistics, but I think one of the things is it needs to, you know, when there's a circumvent, when people circumvent the chain of command, normally not something positive coming out of it. You know, then why are we not allowing the principal to try to fix the problem? Why are we trying to? So to me, it seems like there's a bit of sabotaging that goes on with it. That's why it's put in workplaces that give them a chance. And I've seen it. I've been on the board a long time, and I've seen, oh my gosh, this looks like a real situation. And to come out, there's another side of it. That really, really could have been fixed immediately if there was some conversation with the principal. So it's kind of nice to just be able to redirect people back to that. And then to have, let's say, this policy.
Right,
to
I'm
have-
not saying this
To
one
have a
either.
policy to say, you know what,
But I
there
think
is a
we do
way,
have one.
and I think we do as well.
We have a policy.
I
Well,
think there's
let's-
a way.
But I don't think we can brush it under the
But I
rug. We
will
need to
say,
have a policy.
there are people that work in this district that feel threatened on a daily basis because there's conversations that are going on, and that's not right. And if this is meandering the course on that, I don't know if it is, but I'm telling you that exists, and it's wrong. So I think that's some of that's coming into this. So I'm sure there's gonna be a bigger discussion about that, but that is a fact that there are employees that
Like physically
feel
type?
threatened
No.
by this board. And that's it. The things that, okay, so the listening session on the communication that were sent out to a few people, teacher sends that to me, feels like there's something up. Something's up.
And you said,
I said nothing. I sent it to Marie. I said, here you go. That was it.
what's wrong with it?
Talked to Mark, does he know anything about this? What's wrong with it?
Right.
It came from 2 board members to a select number of staff people.
It, as
Two
was
board
explained
members.
in the
Not
email,
some-
as was
not some
explained in
board
the email,
members.
it was sent to the prior
I
employee
didn't ask for an
council.
explanation.
Of course not.
It came from 2 board members, not some.
Offering,
Why wasn't that not a board conversation?
because the board had,
What opportunity to talk about it? What opportunity was there to talk about it?
they did talk about it, it's just not reflected in the meeting minutes. And you were not at that meeting. Which is a whole nother topic of discussion.
So,
There are many accusations, I'd like to I'm sorry, I'm gonna interject here, Katie, because there's many times you make accusations that I think are very, very hurtful and intentionally not very productive towards a working relationship, whether it's amongst us board members, whether it's amongst us and administration, whether it's amongst us and staff. We're supposed to be ambassadors. We're supposed to be working together for the betterment of the community. And I'm not feeling that oftentimes, and especially not this past year. It's been very, very challenging. And I've been on the board 20 years. Yes, Lori, I sat in on that meeting where I was not in favor of this policy. I'm still not in favor of it as a reprimand. And I've reread it again now tonight in front of you. I'm not seeing where it's a reprimand. I'm not crazy about the wording of it, but something has to change. We cannot continue to be at odds and expect to make forward progress. I want to see that adjusted. Some kind of respectful interchanges must occur, or we're defeating our purpose.
I'm all for respectful interchanges.
So do we wanna move this forward to?
No, but
Not
I think,
this one.
I think
Not
this was
this
part of our last meeting when we talked about having a board
Board
retreat on
retreat.
how we're gonna,
I
how we're
want
gonna
to
figure out how to
specifically
interact
talk
with
about
each
meeting
other
minutes.
so that we don't talk over
Sorry.
each other. Or just-
Okay, so can we put this on an agenda for a board retreat? Marie?
Well, we
He was talking
tried.
chain of command on board retreat.
Well, chain of command.
I think it would be a very beneficial thing. I can't make people come to it though.
But we're all in agreement, we're not going with this one. But we would like to put it on the agenda for a board retreat for discussion.
Could we ask the question, are we all in agreement that it's important that everyone follows the chain of command?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
you can't work without it.
I don't know that we need a board retreat when I think we all agree that that is the case.
I disagree, I think it needs to be written out. So we can hold each other accountable.
I think we should also look at the policies we already have, because if we already have one, we
I
don't want another
believe we
policy that
do.
says the same thing, because that's redundant.
So we did not discuss A, B, C, D, or E.
They didn't
Um,
have any changes, the
C, D.
Are we talking,
CD
is
or
the meeting
E
minutes
have
one on here to?
Anybody have
discuss?
any comments on A? I didn't see any changes on those, but Katie, you said you wanted to talk about E?
Yeah, and D, public participation at board meetings and meeting minutes. Which one do you want first?
Let's do D, because Marie, didn't you want to talk about public participation too at board meetings?
Yeah, I sat in on that, and I think Lori did too, on the presentation put together by WASB.
You want to talk about it, Lori?
Well, they encourage it.
To have a public comment at everything.
And I would just like to throw it in there, if we have it on every agenda, I'm not against it, because how many meetings have we sat where anybody has said one lick at any meeting ever? I mean, and if someone is here and has something to say.
They're limited to 2 minutes, the whole thing's limited to 2 minutes.
I don't know why we're talking about this thing so often.
Right. Yeah.
Give them a six.
So, any other discussion on that item?
Well, I think it
Marie?
was Marie who put it on.
Nope, I'm not pushing back. It can be on every single one. We've always asked, even when it wasn't on the agendas.
Okay, there we go, we're moving on then, okay. So E, meeting minutes.
Can I just, because for our wording on that, because we don't always call them special sessions, and they're closed, so can we just clarify that it's just all meetings and take out the listing of what they're called so that there's no question?
Yes.
Take the specificity out of it?
Yes.
No.
No.
I'm not
Let me
saying,
explain why.
I think that's been the kind of, I don't know what the word is, but
Special session, executive session, board session.
yeah, there's
work
also,
session.
so then, like, copying agendas over, and then it wouldn't have been on one because it wasn't included on this list, and then that's just kind of where it's gone, so I just want some clarification from my end, and if it can be better spelled out in the minutes without being,
That might be possible, but, when I brought up when it was missing to a certain agenda, and I sent the appropriate email to Mark and Marie saying, hey, there's no, public participation on this agenda, my email was ignored and it wasn't added. And then afterward, after the meeting, I said, why wasn't this done? And the explanation was that this session, that the current policy that's in effect that itemizes each of these, and it was a special session, did not constitute a meeting of the board. That only official board, that was what I was told from the board chair. And I
No,
tried to,
did
I
not.
tried to,
Katie,
I
don't
have
put
the
words in
email
my
right
mouth.
here,
Well,
Marie.
let's just decide what we want.
Yeah, so
And
moving
I don't care, I'm
forward,
just saying that, can we
it
just
says
say it's
right
all
here,
meetings?
all regular, special,
It
and work
says that.
session meetings. Well, then moving forward, it's on the agenda. I mean,
I'd like to keep them listed, just so there's not a question about what's considered a meeting and what is
Okay.
not. And I believe that's what happened in the past, that one person thought that a work session did not count as a meeting.
What does it say right now?
work
It said
session.
right there, and it was ignored, so.
It
Well,
says-
moving
It says
forward,
all regular, special, and work sessions. I'm just, if all of a sudden, because if we're calling it a closed session, that's what I'm trying to avoid, is there,
We don't
without
want
any.
public comment on a closed session.
Well,
Well,
there is no public in a closed
Correct.
session.
But you started open,
When
this
you
is what,
started
I'm,
open, no.
I'm asking for clarification.
So read it.
So, right now it says all regular, special, and work session meetings. If it's a closed session meeting, you guys started an open session.
Yep.
So, which would constitute, we could have public comment. I just want it to be clear, because I don't want to leave it off if that's, would be a circumstance, but it's, closed session isn't listed on here. That's what I'm trying to clarify. That's all.
Because it starts open and then we
Correct, you guys have to
it.
close it, yes.
So do
But-
we want public comment at that beginning part where it's open for that short time?
I
Right.
think people,
That's my question. Yep. Yes.
and I think we do.
There could be something where they know that what's going into closed session that we're talking about, that they would come and they have a vested interest in. I think so.
I think we want to allow for public comment at every open session.
Or at least allow for it.
And I guess that was where I was going, if we just say all meetings of the board.
Yep.
So that there's not really any
No.
area that it could be left off.
That, I got that argument back, that the work session doesn't constitute a meeting of the board.
well, it's, moving forward,
We
can we
won't
put
remember
all
this discussion.
meetings?
Well,
Well,
she's writing it.
We put
Yeah.
it in there,
All
we just say
meetings.
all meetings of the board.
Including,
Why do we have to have
Including
including if
but
we
not
have
limited
all meetings?
Yeah.
Right.
What's more clear than all meetings of the board?
But,
because we were told.
so we can
that-
say including
Well-
but not limited to
Yes.
work session, regular session, special session.
If we wanna put every,
Well,
if we have a meeting, we're gonna have an open public comment.
Right.
And no one's gonna say anything at it, because no one ever does. And we're
Whatever
just-
you call it, it's a meeting.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't care if you call it a work
I'm
session
here, you're
or
here,
a-
we're all four here.
whatever, they're meetings.
Can we move on, please?
Yes, please.
So Katie, minutes, you were the one that wanted to talk about minutes policy?
yes. So, October 21st, we have, meeting minutes that have not yet been approved. On the agenda that night was, specific, agenda topics that Mark was covering under his district administrator's report. And when I received the minutes, as you've already heard prior to this appearing on this agenda, there is nothing in here about the topics that Mark had addressed. And when I received the draft minutes, I sent an email, I replied all, to Tasia, Marie, Catherine, and Mark, because that's who Tasia copies it on, and I said, please add the discussion about the employee council and once around the table topics to these minutes, thank you. Now, I assume that I'm being sent these because I'm board clerk. And so the minutes are supposed to be something I'm paying attention to. So I did not state with any particularity what language I wanted, but if we're going to look at through minutes as the record of our meetings, these things should be in there. And so I got, no, we're not, we're no longer doing that, and anyway, but I would like to point out that on the September 23rd meeting, this was before the October 21st meeting, in the September 23rd minutes, there was all kinds of general information provided. So this would have been prior to the Monday, October 21st meeting. Elba Largen asked if the construction updates will be at the work session or the regular sessions. On and on, it went on for, and I think that that is appropriate. And then following the October 21st meeting, you have the November 4th minutes. There was further construction updates, employee handbook updates, WASB delegate, once around the table, all of that. So the problem seems to be what happened during the Monday, October 21st session. And as your clerk, I object to changing what we have been doing before and after, because it might make somebody uncomfortable, right? I didn't say what I wanted in there. I didn't say how I wanted it stated. I didn't say I wanted a long colloquy of the topics, but the topics should all be there so that the minutes reflect the topics. And we've done it before and since. I challenge you to look at these. And I will strongly object anytime we try to change what the board has always done, what we're recording and not recording, at whim, because somebody wants it that way.
Now, I'd like to have an answer to that. Tasia, when did you get to the training that you were most recent training at?
I went to that on October 10th and 11th.
Any training that I've been at for clerk's training, it's the actions of the board. Anytime someone has an adjustment they would like made to the minutes, it cannot be made, should not be made by us individually, but made as a suggestion to the full board. If a statement is made by someone that they would like included in the minutes, they are welcome to write that out, give it to the clerk to put it in the minutes. But as a minutes reflecting the board's actions, that is what they're required to do, the actions of the board. Any changes made to them cannot and should not be made based off of someone's email, question, or suggestion. It would come to the full board for discussion.
Okay, I am the clerk. I will just say that. And so meeting minutes, if I notice something absent, I wasn't asking anybody to alter anything. I was saying, hey, this was overlooked, please put those in there. And I will say that according to the policy that we have, the minutes have to be approved by the board and endorsed by the clerk or by a person designated in my stead. I don't know what endorsed by the clerk means, but I know I'm not going, nor should this board be okay without including what happened in these minutes.
Are you talking about dialogue?
No,
Yeah, what
I
are you
am
asking
not.
for? I don't get it.
I asked what I asked for in my email. There
And-
was
and didn't-
direction provided regarding the employee council. There was also direction provided regarding during the once around. That's what I asked to be included. And I've
And
gotten
Keisha,
nothing but,
Didn't then you modify the minutes the next month, Tasia?
I didn't modify them, oh wait, let me pull that up. I was trying to find, I thought maybe I modified the October ones, but,
and
so I could just, I'll speak for myself. No one told me to change how the meeting minutes were done. No one told me to leave anything out. I had just recently attended the training where it was drilled into us, only board action, only board action. So that's what I did. I don't care how the minutes are done. I mean, I do in a sense of I want it to be how the board wants it, but as far as, I don't make any changes to the minutes unless it's a motion made by the board. I do that because I don't feel comfortable if someone comes to me individually, because it's the board's minutes. So speaking for myself, that's why the October minutes look different from the September minutes. Not because I was
but the
directed to do so.
November went back to
A
November
modified
4th.
So November, the November meeting minutes, after, because that was after the meeting where it was discussed that we did not like the October meeting minutes, I went in and I changed the language so that maybe we could appease all parties and not putting full dialogue in there, but also including the agenda topics, changing the title of the motions that were made to be a motion rather than the resolution, because that was a concern. So again, and those haven't come forward, I wanted to send them to you guys that were kind of involved in that initial discussion to look at if that was a route we wanted to go when we talked about the meeting minutes at this board meeting.
So Katie, were you happy with the modified version that came out in November then?
I was fine with that,
Okay.
totally fine. Yes, I mean, and it's what we did in September too.
So
Go back to that.
go back to, from this point forward, go on with the modified version. Because does that fit with your training?
Well, no, it also
But-
has to comply with the Wisconsin Open Records Law, so it's not just a matter of only, because there were directives that were given at that meeting that are not reflected in our
In
minutes.
forms of motions?
No, and that they don't have to be in forms of motions.
That's what's,
Yes, they do.
that's what
No.
has to be in the law.
No, they don't, because you're not otherwise, when you're talking about the Wisconsin Open Meetings Law, that is different from Robert's Rules. And you have to give a heads up on, if there is a topic on the agenda, you should say what happened to it. Was it sent somewhere? Was it, what was the deal?
So can we move forward with, from this point on, that you're gonna use that modified version? And will that cover us for still being Wisconsin open rules?
Well, I would, for one, like to know what that means that, but I can't ask anybody because I need Mark or Marie to tell me that I can, I don't, just saying, hey, I think you missed this was not a big deal. And it's blown up into this.
Well, it's on the bottom of the last line, if requested remarks of board members and or administration. So it sounds like you're requesting an additional
Well,
something, so it's, to
I
me, it's
asked
clear
for
in there.
consistency, that's it. And as the clerk, I think I should do that, but there is some language included in our policy that
So going forward
seems to
again,
entitle me to
we have requested that be on
weigh in.
there,
Mhm.
so that's,
And I would like to know what that
moving.
means.
Why didn't you just bring that up at the last meeting?
What do you mean? I did.
So I think we all want that, Katie.
yeah, so going forward, as it
Mhm.
states here.
Yep.
Remarks of the board member and or administration.
So at least every item
Agenda
that's on the agenda, that there's a statement about what happened with it.
And our once around. I mean, that's all we
We
have.
can add the once around, that's
Yeah,
not
it's
gonna be a legal thing.
No. Sometimes that's all we have.
Okay, anything else on this policy review?
Yeah, G is one that we've discussed a couple of times. The policy committee met, we got Neola, we got WASB, we put it together. I would appreciate you looking at it as a first reading and bringing it forward to the board for a vote at the regular session in December. If you have any questions, please feel free to call or email any of the three of
Why
us.
did this have to be changed?
We
It
don't
said
have one.
IRS.
Huh?
It said IRS.
There's one piece in there for IRS, what's the rest of it?
It has to do with, right now, we have a employee reimbursement form, and it's too bad that Dave isn't still here, but we have no policy addressing it, and there's things on that form that were not always being followed. And so to enact a policy that addresses it would be
Can we see the form to go along with that?
Can you see the form?
Can we have the form
I don't
provided
have it.
for us?
It's an employee
Yeah,
form.
can that form be provided for us so that we can cross-reference, make sure everything's
I'll get it.
kosher?
Cause this one says doesn't it say it's up to, I guess it'd be Dave, the Director of Fiscal and Building
Yeah.
Operations, it's up to him for approval on those items that would be on that.
He sets the guidelines.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion on policies? All right, we're moving on to the, good God, the meeting's gonna take
Make
forever.
a motion to, skip 9 and go to item 10.
I'll second that motion. I don't know, how do you guys feel about that? All in favor?
Aye.
That,
Otherwise, I'll call for an adjournment.
Opposed?
I thought, I just want to state that, this is something that has been put off repeatedly. I understand the meeting is getting late. I agree that perhaps it should be tabled, but it's something that we should be looking at and creating goals, and maybe that would address, some of the other issues that we've talked about tonight. If we could agree on 2 or 3 goals perhaps, that we as a board can work on, that comes out of this school perceptions board development tool report.
Okay.
I have a motion. I have a motion.
Well, did that one pass to move?
We haven't
that?
voted on it yet, have we?
I said, the motion was to take A off the agenda.
And you seconded it.
And I seconded
Or
it.
just to table it.
You wanna table it now? Okay.
I just table it. I don't feel like it's a good time tonight to talk about this.
I agree.
I don't think it's gonna be beneficial tonight to talk about that.
Okay.
I'm not trying
So
to
we
circumvent or
need to amend
delay.
that motion.
I'm trying in the best interest of
All
this
All in
board
favor then?
and its harmony. to
Aye.
just go ahead and-
All opposed?
Aye.
All right, table, take it off. All right, personnel update.
I make a motion to approve items 10A and B.
Second. Take that. My name's on the agenda.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Sick bank for district employees.
I said
Oh,
aye.
you said,
Aye.
that's right, good for you. Oh, once around the table. Lori?
I would like to have the board consider going into closed session to consider the administrative contracts that are up for renewal. I would like some information about school age care. In the past, it was a directive of the board that school age care be open on inclement weather days, and I noticed that on our website, it was closed, and I started doing some investigating, and apparently it's written in several places that when the school is closed for inclement weather, school age care is not available, and the board specifically made a motion that it be open on inclement.
I think it was Catherine.
And I remember that as well, but I remember it being cold weather due to, instead of a snow situation, when it was snow
Employees
because the
being
roads
at
were
risk.
unsafe was one thing, cold was
Let's talk about it.
what we were going to look at.
So I
Next time.
would like that to be brought forward.
Okay.
And then the last thing was the WASB convention. I believe Tasia has 3 rooms reserved, and I don't know if we need to make a board motion to decide who's going to be going, but it's coming up, and it's another item that should be addressed. So those 3 in the future.
Who is going? You committed? Did you commit?
I will unless somebody else would like to go.
I need to figure out how, you guys gotta inform me about it though too, cause I don't know.
What's that?
How do I do it, all of that stuff, so.
Well,
You'll have to let me know.
All the arrangements have been made, it's just,
You guys have to let me know.
Okay. Bruce, did you have anything for once around the table? Katie? No. Bob?
I know.
Penny, no? Nope, I don't either. All right. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Into closed session.
Wow.
also make a motion to table the closed session for today.
Sorry, I missed your second motion. Thank you.
It was quiet, sorry.
That's okay.
So Bob made a motion to, say it again, Bob.
Table that and then to adjourn for the night. for the evening.
Catherine will need a roll call vote for this since it's,
There isn't even a second.
oh, I thought,
Oh, you
No,
seconded.
I seconded. Okay.
well, I think you have to, yeah.
Second that one.
I asked for a motion to adjourn into closed session. And who made that motion?
I did.
And you seconded that.
So we need to take care of that one before we,
Okay.
You into closed session about the contracts, or are you talking closed session as to the performance evaluation?
Performance evaluation.
Okay.
So all in favor of that motion and that
get
second?
to roll call it.
Lori,
No.
you're gonna say no on your own motion?
Yeah,
Okay,
I can do that.
all right. Okay. No? Gets it to the floor.
No.
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 Thank you.
Does this mean we do the administrator and the contract at the next meeting on the,
I think it
16th?
I don't know what that means.
Works for me. You wanna?
You could say yes.
We can keep that agenda down so we have some time.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'd
because this
appreciate it.
agenda
We've
also
been
with all
meeting,
those
we've been in
policy reviews.
meetings since 5 o'clock that have been up to here, so, if we keep our next meeting
Yes.
down and do it, let's just get it done.
Okay, motion
just-
passes?
I just need a vote from Marie and
Marie,
Bruce.
I didn't know what the motion actually was, so it's to move into closed session,
Doesn't matter
and
what
we're
you say.
saying, and there's how many no's to it?
Oh.
I'm okay with no. Great, no is good.
We're gonna,
motion passes, David.
we'll get it on for
Motion
the
fails.
Or
second
motion
meeting.
fails.
Fails.
So that's
Unanimously.
fails.
Right.
Then we need
I'll make a motion to table, or lay on the table,
until.
whatever our last, our closed session.
Are we doing it at work session?
Well, you
No,
don't even
let's
have
do
to
it at
table
our
it
next
because
business
it's the
meeting.
motion to move into
Well,
it
we
failed,
have to do it
but if you want a motion to adjourn,
I'll make a motion to.
What did you say?
our next meeting.
At
The board meeting?
9:10.
But we have to talk about it.
All in
If we're gonna do it.
All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
before the end of the year, don't we? Isn't that the deal? So we have to talk about next time, right, Lori?
I'm sorry, you're talking about the other.
The contracts.
The contracts before the end of the year.